पाजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह पाजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह गुर सेवा ते भगत कमाई तब ये मानस देही पाए इस देही को सिमरै देव सो देही भज हर की सेव सो देही भज हर की सेव भजो गोबिंद पूल मात जाह मानस जन्म का एही लाह.
So, welcome friends to another podcast in the Holy Truth series, given as always in the name of the Supreme Lord, who once again wishes to impart the very highest truth of what many call God, life and creation to the sincere seekers of the world, especially for the modern age. That's further supported by the Holy Masters, perfect saints and noble mystics of Sant today. Now this high truth of the ages is the noble path of Sant, or path of the true saints, also known as the universal truth, true spirituality or true religion, that is so graciously gifted to seeking humanity by the great holy masters, perfect saints and noble mystics in every age, who are themselves the true representative of the Supreme Lord even today. And although little known among the masses, once encountered, a sincere truth seeker can easily recognize that this noble path or true way encompasses all true faiths and beliefs as the noble source of all, details of which can be found in our humble literature, spiritual centers or YouTube channel, as well as in the Holy Discourse series of ISTAuk.com. But before I begin today's session of spiritual questions and answers, I would first like to make a short introduction about who we are and what we represent here today. We are the International Spiritual Truth Association, or ISTA for short, and although now global, we originally set up in 2016 in the UK by request of the Holy Masters of the day, who derived their authority from Great Master Baba Savan Singh Ji of the holy lineage of Sant in India, the Levant and Persia. Now our given mission is simple: to tell the full truth about true spirituality or true religion from the Supreme Lord's point of view, especially for the modern age, while also correcting the confusions of the past and even that of the present about what is the real truth. Yet this high teaching is not new. It is the age-old path of true spirituality, known today as the Holy Truth of Sant, which in fact has been discreetly taught throughout the ages to the most sincere seekers of the time, alongside the more familiar religious or philosophical teachings that we all know of. Indeed, Holy Masters tell us that the simple teachings of mass religion and mass philosophy are only there to elevate the masses to the position of higher truth seeking, so that they can understand and ultimately practice true spirituality or true religion. Therefore, our mission here today is simple: to impart the very highest truth of the Supreme Lord to those who wish to know, with all the love, grace and wonder that such a gift entails. Now for those who do listen and take heed, Holy Masters tell us that they are indeed the most fortunate ones of humanity. As for myself, I am a sincere devotee of the very highest truth of Sant, who has given his life in the service of the true Lord. As such, I do not seek any recognition, praise or reward, as I only act with the authority and by request of the Supreme Lord itself and the Holy Masters of today, to simply tell the full truth of God, life and creation for the modern age. I humbly speak, therefore, as one who has been gifted with true knowledge of that high truth, and as one who lives in the Supreme Lord's will. Thus I offer my humble demonstration and knowledge to all who seek the same. Now as a friend on this noble path to God realization, I only ask that you put aside my human form, and instead listen to and take heed of the loving message that the Supreme Lord has to offer you via this humble form, who has himself been transformed by the Holy Masters of today. Thus I represent the proof that truly anyone can rise above their given karmic role, to become truly noble once again by the true Lord's grace, if only they earnestly seek it. Therefore, everything I shall share with you today is a gift of wisdom, direct from the true Lord itself, for the sincere seekers of high spiritual truth. In this way, I am a humble servant and a perfect friend, whom the true Lord has gifted with direct knowledge of the holy truth, which I have been asked to share with you. So, although I shall speak with the authority of one who has been instructed to do so by the Supreme Lord, please do not attempt to praise or glorify this humble servant in any way, for you too are all divine beings, undergoing a human experience in this lifetime, though you may not yet be aware of this. Therefore, what is given to me freely by the highest authority, I give to you the same. In return, I only ask that you open your heart and mind to the holy truth that the Supreme Lord has to offer you. Now, for those who need further assistance, they may privately contact the main speaker directly via email or video by first subscribing to our valuable information service at ISTAuk.com and then requesting the direct contact details of our main speaker from our administrators. He will endeavour to answer all spiritual queries within 48 hours of receipt, but please be patient if he should take a little longer due to his busy schedule and sheer number of inquiries. So thank you, and let's now begin with the question and answer session from our inquiries and the audience.
Thank you. So the theme today is God. What is the true meaning behind the concept of God? So the first question is, how can we simply explain the real truth about who or what is God and his or her source?
Well, this has been a subject that's been debated for many centuries, many eons in fact, and the confusion in understanding the nature of God lies in the fact that the Lord or the Creator, who they refer to as God, exists in different levels or dimensions of existence, and therefore has different qualities associated with it. So historically, you had, let's say, the Hindu population who saw God as a humanized version of themselves. In other words, a deity, something that they could worship in a physical form, but also as this abstract, humanized version of the higher truth. And from this, they created the yogic system, going back more than 26,000 years, in fact, although Indian mythology goes back only 10,000 years. It's far older than that. So you could say it all started there, and at that time India was in the middle of the world, and the leader of spirituality. So yogis were born there, and these were extraordinary individuals who started the process of inquiring about the truth of life and existence. And they did this not in scientific terms that we have today, or even in philosophical terms. They ventured within themselves, and they wanted to understand the concept of reality. Why is it, their question was, and Adi Yogi asked this question, the most famous yogi of all, who started the whole concept 26,000 years ago in India. He said, why is it that we, above all other animals, are conscious, reasoning, intelligent and logical thinking beings, but other animals do not? They're not aware like we are. What is the purpose of this? So he made that inquiry within, and through force of his own effort, he reached a certain point. He reached a point near Brahman. And then he declared to everyone that we are much more than the physical. We exist in different dimensions of existence. And hence the whole system of spirituality was born in a real sense. Because up until then, archaic humans, or the old human population, they believed in spirits, animal spirits, tree spirits, volcanoes. They believed in superstitions and folklore. And they didn't have this concept of an all-governing Lord, or that there was anything beyond the physical. So they thought the entire universe that they could see, their cosmology, was based upon everything they could see and sense. So it was a big deal for Adi Yogi to come forward and say, hey, there's something much more than this. We have been given this faculty of thinking and reasoning for a very special purpose. And he directly experienced that. So he introduced the yogic system. And today we have so many schools there's 6 schools of philosophy, but at that time there were 108 schools of philosophy about how to practice his yoga. The problem is that by his own effort within the realm of thinking, he was only able to attain the heights of the mind, the very high level of the mind, we would call Brahmandi mind, or universal mind. And because of that, the systems he implemented of yoga were based upon managing the body and the energy centers called the chakras. So now yoga is associated with chakra management, and there's different ones. The greatest ones would be Raja Yoga, but there are many different types of ones, from simple Hatha Yoga or Kundalini Yoga and so on. And all these different branches of yogas came from this one man's experience. Following that, he had various apprentices who also mastered the art, and they became famous yogis over history. So hence the Hindu philosophy was born. And over years, each one who came about added to this. So their concept of God was based upon his experience. And as a result of that, the Vedas came about. Some many thousands of years later. The oldest Vedas are about 5,000 years old. Yeah. So Adi Yoga predates that considerably. However, throughout all this time, there were these mysterious beings who were also born. And rather than publicizing their understanding to humanity at large, they had a very small gathering of people. And we call these holy masters, perfect saints and noble mystics. So alongside mass religion of yogic practices and belief systems, these ones taught that individual personalized connection with the Lord that didn't require a mass audience or a building or any rituals or worships. It just required meditation to connect. And these holy masters existed all throughout history. Now their understanding is quite different. They separate the mind from the soul quite clearly. And they say, actually, the character you're playing in this life, that Adi Yogi rightly discovered, is only a character. It's not the real you. And the real you is the soul, Atma, which is universal truth. It is the embodiment of the Creator itself, the perfectness of the Creator, who has individuated itself to form individual characters that now take part in karmic creation. And as a result of that, we are much more than Adi Yogi proclaimed. So then these saints were explaining that within you also is something more than just these mindfulness practices of religion. actually you are Atma, your soul as well. And it is perfectly possible for you to awaken this and see all this for yourself. Now the later ones who promoted this we hear about. For example, Kabir was very famous, and it's considered that Kabir was the father of modern Sant or this spiritual teaching of the saints. But he wasn't. There's many who predated him, and in the Guru Granth Sahib there's entries that predate Kabir. And then we have Guru Nanak, of course, very famous in Sikhism, who promoted it, and now we have the Radha Swami faith from Tulsi Sahib and Swamiji Maharaj. They're all harping on the same tune. Forget the concepts of yoga, which are limited. Go beyond, because you're much more than that. Your soul, your Atma. Alright? And this Atma is all powerful. The deity you pray to, the soul is even greater than that. And that was a very big thing to introduce. So they introduce a next level concept of God. But beyond that still, you have what we call Param Sants. So some Param Sants said, okay, yes, we are soul, and that is the reality, and we have the collective consciousnesses, but what lies even beyond that? The state of absolute nothingness or oneness. So later saints, as humanity evolved, saints revealed a little more and more about the true nature of God. And it started with Tulsi Sahib, which was born in the 17th century. He was the master of Swamiji Maharaj of the Radhaswami faith, well known. And he wrote many books and ideas, and he elaborated a lot on this concept of the fact that the supreme being, the absolute being, is of nothing, and that every possibility emanates from nothingness. Only nothingness can generate every possibility. It was a big thing at the time to say that the Lord actually is nothing, yet he is the potential for everything. So therefore he cannot be described. Later on, Sant adopted the term Anami Purush, the nameless one, the unfathomable one, the one who can't even be given a name, because he doesn't exist in any of the humanized forms that were worshipped before, or the deities. So Sant carried on with this principal teaching. But in recent times, even more has been revealed. If you think this is an ongoing evolution, and we've got to the point now in the 21st century where the actual truth of all creation and all reality is that oneness alone that has manifested into the many. So when somebody asks, what is the truth of God, or who is God, or where is God, the answer is, there is nothing but God in creation. Everything is a manifestation of that supreme power, that consciousness that has divided itself up into countless forms for the sake of drama, to have a play. Because when you are all powerful and you can express yourself all powerfully in every way infinitely, then you can multiply this infinitely, so your power becomes infinitely glorious in every conceivable way. As a play, a sport, they call it lila in the language, it means play of the divine, sport of the divine. So the entire expression of creation is nothing more than the expression of the one becoming the many for the sake of drama, staged in a dream. So the entire creation is a dream in which a drama is portrayed. And like any dream, when you wake up from the illusion of the dream, you realize that the drama itself was unreal as well. That all the comings and goings, all the things you witness were unreal. That is the reality. But in order to have a sense of play, the playground for the Almighty, and this is something that's very difficult, because we're explaining now something in a human language which there are no words to describe. Because the immediate person might say, well, why bother? If this being is happy in its own self, why bother expressing its glory? And the answer simply is because it is its natural expression. It too is helpless. Yeah, just like a dog barks, it's helpless. You can't train a dog to play the piano. A bird flies. Does the bird show off when it flies? Does the cheetah show off when it runs at 70 miles an hour? No. These are natural expressions of its existence. So going back to the very beginning, this one became the many and expressed itself in every conceivable form, infinitely, in all directions, so that it could express its full glory for its own self, for its own entertainment. Now, in order to make this even more interesting, because this glory of truth we conceptualize as something called love, the love of truth, the love of its own truth. This being is an eternal love being. It loves itself, but not in a human sense. It loves what it is, its own glory, its own expression of truth. So love and truth go hand in hand. And because this being represents the truth, it expresses its truth in every conceivable way as a demonstration of its truth, and we call that truth glory. So when everything is created in creation, if the backdrop has been created, then life forms were introduced. The Supreme Lord condensed itself into droplets of itself from its ocean of truth into miniature versions and called them souls, and sent them into the creation to take part in the play and the drama. Because not only was it enough to express itself infinitely in creation itself, the Lord is fond of play, drama. And therefore, this whole role of creating dramas was created. But there's no reality to anything that's going on. It is just entertainment. For example, when we watch a movie, we like watching movies. Why do you like watching movies? We have our own drama in our life. What is the point of watching a movie? What do we get out of it? If you put a dog in front of a movie, he won't get any pleasure. If you put a plant in front of the movie, there won't be any pleasure. Why do we as human beings enjoy drama, enjoy watching the movies? Because we know there's no reality to it. That no matter what goes on there, when we turn off the box, the TV, we can go about our business, our reality remains the same. We are a spectator to something that we find entertaining. Where do we get that quality from? That quality comes from the very highest level. There is nothing that a human being expresses that doesn't come from divinity. That has been filtered down into the physical form. Therefore, if we don't have enough drama in our life, we like to watch it on television or in the movies. Yeah? If our drama is too great in life, we can't watch the television because we're overwhelmed. So our fondness for drama, spectacle, showmanship and everything is an inherent quality of the Lord itself, because after all, we are all part and parcels. We are drops of the ocean. If we are drops of the ocean, the drop has the same quality as the ocean. There's no difference. It's just that the ocean is a bigger mass of that energy, and whereas you as a drop is a small packet of energy, but exactly the same qualities, and this is what the soul has. So when the soul goes forth into the playground creation, it creates for itself, according to certain rules that have been laid down, a character in the play. And that character now becomes us. So when we look in a mirror, we're looking at this physical form. But this physical form has a mindset behind it. And this mindset is the character we're playing in this lifetime. And because this character is not real, just like a movie lasts for 2 hours and it finishes, it doesn't go on forever, our character lasts for 60, 70 years and finishes. But what remains is real, the Atma, the soul. And that is the one that is our reality. So the evidence of this we see all around us. Nobody's lived forever. Nothing goes on forever.
But while we are here, we do feel this is the reality. This is
of course, because now there's a part to this. What makes this convincing to you is the fact that you have to be separated from the truth. Otherwise, who would take part? If all the mindsets knew that this was just illusion, shadows on the wall, who would take part in it so convincingly? So for the drama to take place, I mentioned a set of rules had to be there. And one of these rules are that when you individuated yourself and you adopted a character, you wholly absorbed yourself, immersed yourself in that character. And therefore you believe this character to be real. Only then will your performance be convincing. But there is a way out. You see, obviously this would be a real poor show if there was no way out. So built into all of this illusion and all of this drama is a way out. And this way out comes when that character becomes fed up of the play. They've had enough. They say, I want to go home. Yeah, like a child going to the fun fair. He enjoys himself, right? He's so excited at the beginning of the day. He would not think of going home. By the end of the day, he's worn and weary. He's done it all. He said, I'm fed up. I want to go home now. And the parent says, okay, let's take you home. So what happens in spirituality, in real spirituality? In true spirituality, the saints, the holy masters come here to take us home. They're like our parents. They know who is marked for them, who is ready to come home, who's fed up in creation. So that they descend from the level of truth, but in them, the awareness remains complete. They don't lose their awareness. So these are ones who are not like us, taking part in creation blindly. They are fully aware of everything that's going on. So they don't come here to enjoy. They come here to help. Because what enjoyment is there for them? The myth is busted. The illusion is busted, right? There's no enjoyment. So they come for another reason. They come here to serve us, to help us. They never come to do their own bidding. And that's why masters themselves say, I do not come to do my own bidding, I come to do the Lord's bidding. And it's absolutely true. No master, no enlightened one comes here to serve themselves. Absolutely not. They come here to help others. So, the concept of the Sant is born, the Sant Satguru, where they descend to earth, they become enlightened, and then they enlighten others. In them is the origin ocean, disguised as a drop. So they contain the entire ocean. So by attaching yourself to them, by following them, they can take you to that ocean back home for you to have a rest and then decide what you do from there. Come back again for another go, or just have a long period of rest, or go back to the oneness and total annihilation where you become the absolute of everything. So there's two directions. So this resting place, which we call Satgurus, is the middle of the entire creation. Below that is illusion of one form or another, whether it's spiritual or mental illusion realms. Above Satgurus are the purely spiritual realms of becoming one with the absolute truth, which means complete annihilation. So now you've got to pick from all of this, what is God? Yeah. So I've given you the overall expression of a God, that God is everywhere. And because God is manifested in everything, the problem is to identify this, because it's everywhere. So you say, what is God? You are God. The furniture is God. The painting is God. In fact, there's nothing where there is no God. So something that is everything cannot be described. Because depending on your point of view, you could describe it in any poetic way. And in the past, they did exactly that. Now, the division of creation into realms of existence or levels of consciousness is what creates the different types of religions in the world and the different concepts of God. So whilst God is the one, and everybody says this in loose terms, God is one, they don't understand what that means. I've just given an explanation of that oneness, becoming the many. When this oneness is filtered down into lords of realms, where different levels of consciousness exist, now we start praying to them. We give them names. So we assign names to these gods, and depending on the culture you're born into, which name is adopted, you say, that is my God. And my God is better than your God. Because the human nature is such that it likes to play drama, even when it comes to religion. It doesn't understand that religion is supposed to be apart from all of this. So they use their drama ideal, their concept of playing a drama in religion, and say, my club is better than your club. You see? Now, the interesting thing is, and a very controversial point is, that yes, there are different levels of expression of God, going down from the very highest to the very lowest. So if you belong to a club that worships, let's say, the astral level of God, then that's all you can attain through that means. It's a step up, but not all the way. Now, if you want to go all the way, you'll meet a perfect Sant Satguru. And that Sant Satguru can give you access to where he comes from, Satgurus, or the resting place. That's still not the ultimate. you cannot attain the ultimate from this level of a human being, but you can from Satgurus if you turn your face away from creation towards the one, Anami Purush. So it's a really important place, Satgurus, and that's why it was given such importance in Sikhism, because it is the highest state that we can attain as a human being on the spiritual journey before making the decision to either come back or go forward, onwards to our oneness state. So if for example, now the deities of Hinduism, which are the top level of the mind, they are composed of the three aspects of mind: the creator, the sustainer, and the destroyer, or Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, or Shiva. And these entities were given a shape or form, even wives in Hinduism. Each one has a wife, believe it or not. Not that it's necessary for them, but for humans to relate to them, they gave them wives. And these wives and these beings are actually not beings, they're powers. There are three powers, and these three powers govern the karmic creation or lower creation, or the creation of mind, in which characters can take part. So we are now born in what we call the karmic part of creation, which is from the second realm down to the zero or physical realm. So we have this physical earth, which we have physical bodies, which cut us off from our spiritual self. Then we have the astral realm, next realm, in which we don't have a physical body. We have an astral body that looks very similar, but we're cut off from the origin of those bodies. And then we have the causal realm, mind realm, where only thought exists. And therefore there's no body of any sort. There's no form. It's formless. And but it's separated from the soul. Still, they do not understand the concept of soul. They use the term soul and jiv interchangeably. That's the mistake. So later on, throughout history, they used atma and jiv, meaning the same. They're not the same. The jiva, or the jiv, is the individual character you're playing in creation, and atma is the soul source, which is the perfect divinity of yourself. And the divinity of yourself does not come into creation. It projects from such kind. So the entire creation is a projection of a projection, or a reflection of a reflection of a reflection. There's no such thing as creation. The creation is illusory. Even Satgurus itself was created from Anami Purush. That itself will one day expire, but that is the last to go. So therefore the saints say it is eternal. It is not in the real scheme of things, because if Anami Purush becomes one again without expressing the many, then there's not even a Satgurus. There's just a one. So therefore, it depends from which background you come from, which understanding you have as what God is. So I'm hoping to have given an overall answer, but and it says, I think that his or her, so that God has no gender. It is neither male nor female. It is neither young nor old. In fact, it has no form, but it is every form at the same time. So looking at the religions of the world, because mostly, we have a lot of, say, Sikhs here and Christians and so on. So I'm going to quote a little bit to explain a few things that may relate to all of this from the religious works. So looking at the Guru Granth Sahib, or the Sikh Bible in particular, it is said, God is the supreme creator and governor of creation, an eternal, all-pervading, divine light and sound. So this is their expression of it, their description of it. His form is beauty, his form is love, his form is compassion, his form is bliss, eternal and immortal. So you see how they are contextualizing this in language. This is still not whole and not complete, but it gives you an idea of what the saints consider to be God in trying to describe this in human terms. All the virtues exist in him, it says. Yet man, meaning humankind, contains within himself a drop of that ocean. So the Sikhs recognize the drop and the ocean concept, mainly introduced by Kabir. As the fragrance dwells in a flower, or an image in a mirror, so does the soul reside in the human body. Man, or humankind, is truly a reflection of the glory of God, a true drop of the infinitesimal universal soul. Indeed, such is the divine play of God that he has reflected the whole cosmos in the human body. What that means is that the entirety of consciousness, or access to the entirety of creation, lies within us. Because what I haven't mentioned is that our reality is simply a product of our expression of that reality. Each one carries their own reality with them. No two are alike. If you ask them, what is the reality? They say, well, what I express, what I see, what my senses tell me, this is the reality of this. And others say, no, but this is ugly, this is horrible, this is not right. I see something different. Two people looking at the same painting will see something completely different. And that's the individuated forms that creates drama. Because unless you have a difference of opinion, there'll be no drama. So overcoming this delusion is the point of being born human. That humans have the ability to find the truth within all this nonsense. Rather than following variations of the nonsense found in many belief systems, seeking the truth within you, as Adi Yogi attempted to do, but he was unfortunate that he didn't have a perfect saint to take him beyond the level of mind and Maya. But nevertheless, it was a great achievement that he did on his own. Unless we have somebody to help us on this journey, in other words, to attach us to somebody from beyond the level of mind and Maya, we cannot leave the illusion. So, now the Guru Granth Sahib again begins with the famous Mool Mantra of the Japji Sahib, which is the opening of the Guru Granth Sahib, in which the rest of the Granth is based. So this opening verses of Guru Nanak are very important in Sikhism because they set the foundation for the entire belief system. And I'm not going to read the whole lot, but I'm just going to give you an idea of where they're coming from. So the Mool Mantra simply starts with this: there is but one God, whose name is truth. Okay, so that's an interesting thing. Name is truth. We spoke about that the God is the embodiment of truth from the experience of those who have become enlightened. And the Guru Granth reflects this. Whose name is truth. As the creator of all, he fears none. He is without hate and is omnipresent. He is beyond the cycle of births and deaths and is self-perpetuating. So he does not need to be created himself. He creates himself. True in the beginning, true throughout the ages, and is true now, which means he has always been. Says Nanak, he will forever be true. So this is the opening part of the Mool Mantra. In a similar way, Guru Nanak's later scripture again says, there is one reality, the invisible made manifest, ever existent. That one is Nam, or conscious spirit, the creator, pervading all, without fear, without enmity, the timeless, unborn, and self-existent one, complete within itself. Only through the favour of his true servant, the Satguru, may he be realised. And so it goes on. So we've just summarised now everything I've explained about the need for somebody who's an enlightened being to get you in connection with this high truth of God. Later on, Guru Nanak further says, God is one, but has innumerable forms. He is the creator of all, and he himself takes the human form. So again, we explain the concept of the Sant Satguru, that the Lord, out of compassion for us, comes into the creation in a human form to help us. And that's exactly how the rescue plan works for those who are ready to leave. So let no man in the world live in delusion, Guru Nanak says. Without a true Guru, God in human form, as he explained earlier, none can cross over to the other shore, the kingdom of Sachkhand. Guru Nanak's own words. Sikhs have a little problem with this because they consider the book to be the Guru. But actually Guru Nanak has explained this, and in many other places, that he needs to be in human form. Nevertheless, we won't go into the politics of religion. Now then, Guru Nanak further says, all things are manifestations of his will. But his will is beyond description. By his will is matter quickened into life. So from matter he creates life. By his will is greatness obtained. By his will some are born high and some are born low. By his will are one's joys and sorrows ordained. By his will the pious obtain salvation. By his will the impious wander in endless transmigration. All exist under his will, and nothing stands outside of his will. So therefore, only the will of the Lord resides in everything. So when we look at what's going on in creation, there's nothing but the Lord in creation, and there's nothing but his will in operation, divided into individual parts. All exist under his will, it says, and nothing stands outside, as I just said. But one attuned with his will, O Nanak, is wholly free from ego. Guru Nanak then goes on to say, one cannot comprehend him through reason. Yeah? Even if one reasons for all the ages, and this is the problem that Adiyogi had, because he tried to reason it through his own mind and reach the level of the mind, but he never quite got there. But he did very well on his own. Again, he says, the world is a drama staged in a dream, which is what I mentioned earlier. So this is Guru Nanak's words, and it's very important, Guru Nanak's contribution in the Guru Granth Sahib for Sikhs. Unfortunately, many don't read it. They're more interested in the 10th Guru and the more kind of, let's say, worldly aspects of survival. But this is a very important part of the Bible. Now, meanwhile, in the Holy Bible of the Christians, it says, in the beginning was the Word, or creative power. And the Word was with God, supreme consciousness. The Word was God, meaning supreme consciousness. All things were made by God, and without God was not anything made that was made. Quite clearly backing up the Guru Granth Sahib in the concept of God. In God was life, and that life became the light or the soul of man. And though that light shineth in the darkness of the body, the darkness comprehended not, meaning why we are ignorant of the soul within us. So although that light of the soul shines within us, we comprehend it not. So the Word, or Lord, was made flesh, meaning a holy master, referring in this case to Jesus, but really a holy master, because it didn't say his name, it said made flesh, and dwelt amongst us, full of grace and truth. Yeah, so the grace of truth, again this emphasis of truth. Now the Vedas of Hinduism says, before time began, there was no earth, no heaven, no space, nothing. The waves of a vast dark ocean of spirit lapped on the edge of this nothingness, while a giant cobra floated on its waters, and this is symbolic, and I'll explain about that in a bit, about the cobra. Lying asleep in the snake's coils was Lord Vishnu. The snake kept him safe, and he slept peacefully, meaning in slumber, unmanifested, unaware, sleep. You have to understand these terms are used in human words, but they have a wider scope of meaning. Slowly, a sound started, termed Om. It grew louder and filled the emptiness. It throbbed with energy and drove the emptiness away. Lord Vishnu woke up, so it became manifested through this sound, this Shabad is spoken in Sikhism, the divine word in Christianity, which refers to the Shabad as well. There's just different expressions of this. Lord Vishnu woke up, and a magnificent lotus flower grew from his navel. Yeah, these are explanations. You have to understand the time this was written many thousands of years ago. They explain things in things that they observed in the waters and so on of the nature that they saw around them. So don't take this too literally, but the concept behind it gives an idea. Right in the middle of the flower, that lotus, sat Brahma. Lord Vishnu told Brahma to set to work and create a world. Hence the creation of the three worlds, causal, astral and physical, began. So that is the Hindu original concept of creation and the relationship with the Lord. As you can see, it's a very emotive and kind of artistic expression of the truth. But nevertheless, the concept of a beginning, and there was something before that. And they don't explain the ocean of spirit, which is the true Lord. Because funny enough, in Hinduism, they don't have a single god. They have a pantheon of gods, because Hinduism is more concerned about the mind and the operation of character and all the deities and demons and holy people that represent that. They don't really go into the level of the soul. So that part is missing in Hinduism. If you go and ask a Hindu of many beliefs, who is God? One will say Vishnu, one will say, Shiva, another will say Durga Mata. They have their own versions of God. Yeah? But none of them will agree. Because in Hinduism, the God at this point has already divided itself up into the many. And it's just a question of which one you like to follow. Which version of this pipe of creation. Now, interestingly, despite all of this, every human being is born with an innate urge to know something higher than its mere animal behavior survival. We see this in ancient cave paintings. Before even religion as a formal group emerged, people, our so-called archaic humans or hominids, or Neolithical humans or hunter-gatherers, still were searching for something more than mere survival. So this is something innate within us that is not found in other animals. Yeah, we often call that higher entity today God, but we have never been able to comprehend or even describe that higher entity intellectually, even though we devise several beliefs in God and deities, religions, etc., in an attempt to confine the creator of all existence into language form. So this is where the problems lay. And that brings us to the modern day, why we have these satsangs. So although I'm explaining all these things to you in words from different backgrounds, I haven't covered all the faiths, but generally the bigger faiths and the bigger beliefs, it gives you an idea that all these religions are born of this concept of the one becoming the many. Some take this right to the beginning, some take a little further along, but they're all kind of investigating that side of things. And depending on how far they see this level of truth, they have formed the rituals and the religions around it we follow today. So out of all of this, Sant Mat runs alongside it, representing the very highest truth for those who are ready. The reason why Sant Mat never really became a religion is because it wasn't for the masses. As I explained in the introduction speech, religion is there to elevate the masses to higher spiritual thinking. So first you have to introduce a club-like mentality where people find interest in the truth. Once they qualify to higher levels of that truth, they leave that religion behind and go into true spirituality. That personal connection between them and the Supreme Lord, which is the ultimate truth. It's not a mass group effort. Right? So religions emphasize mass group collections of people gathering, singing praises, rituals, and so on. But no one has ever attained the absolute truth that means. The ones who have, the enlightened ones, are always shown to be sitting on their own somewhere meditating, only through meditation firstly, not through ritual, and on their own somewhere, sitting in a corner, not in the public arena. So there's a clue. But for ordinary humans who are not real truth seekers, they're happy to be part of a club for a while, because it gives them a sense of belonging. I have an identity, and I'm hedging my bets, If I do this puja, this havan, or this borg, or this akampat or anything, I'm pleasing the Lord, as well as enjoying myself in human form. Yes?
Is there anything wrong with that?
Not in the beginning, no. Because for those starting all of these things...
people do that, don't
yeah, but they're the ones who are in the religious faith. They're not really seeking the truth. They're not there yet. They don't want that individual connection with the Lord. They don't actually know God. They just want favours. They know there's this all-powerful entity there who can grant favours. So they say, well, if we do all these rituals, all rituals are based upon a favour. None of them are about truth-seeking. Because the yogi who sits on their own, meditates, he's a truth seeker. He asks for nothing.
But a lot of those people have a lot of compassion and love.
Yeah, of course, because at least they're heading in that direction. But their compassion and love is essentially selfish. It's mind-orientated. Meaning that if they don't get what they want out of the deal, they'll leave it just as quick like that. Whereas a fully realized soul, even if they get nothing in this world, if everything goes wrong, they remain focused on that truth. They do not leave that truth. That's why I say, never put these people to the test. No matter how much they emphasize their so-called compassion and love, when you put them to the test, they will fail the test.
But
Yes.
I'm a Hindu.
Yes,
so
yes.
I come from that background.
Yes, yes.
A lot of them are there for almost a whole life. They never give up.
That's good.
So
But they have to come back. At least one thing, by starting off with even science and philosophy and religion, then at least you're making an inquiry. That's setting the ground for your future. Even in Hinduism, they understand the concept of karma. That you're laying the foundations for the future, reincarnation. And that means you'll come back. So let's say you're going through the Hindu route in this lifetime. At least you're heading somewhere, you're going somewhere. Imagine you don't do anything, you just live like an animal. What hope is there for you? Then you descend into the animals. So I'm saying if you feel comfort on this, start there. But once you've reached the end game and you're no longer satisfied, and that comes from within you, not from anybody else, you want more, you feel there's something missing. And that's because of the grace of the Lord has planted within you the seed of it further investigation. Then you make further inquiries. Then you come into the company of the perfect saints who introduce to something greater than this. And once you start following that journey, you understand its power and majesty. So whilst you can live in your cultural religion and happily go along with these things, the rituals and so on, you're no longer a true believer. You understand that these are just ceremonial and there's nice things as part of the culture. No harm in it. No master will say to you, leave your religion, denounce them. No, religions do that. Masters never. They will say, you carry on. Go and attend your meetings and your discussions and everything. But you now, becoming a realized soul, are separate from others. And maybe one or two of them can be helped, because they'll come to you and say, we are all distressed about the events of the world and we come here for comfort, support. You seem peaceful and quiet, like nothing bothers you. What is your secret? You say, because I've transcended all this concern. I'm now looking in a further direction beyond all of this. I know that there's more. Yes?
That would sound very, very weird too.
I'm giving it an example. I'm giving it just a brief. How you say it is an individual, depending on who comes to you. I'm giving an example of how the saints have said in the past, when they were questioned, why did they not follow the system, whether it's the Buddha, whether it's the Gurus and so on. They similarly said these things. They say for them, there's no religion. They say they're non-religious, you see. So Guru Nanak's line was that he wasn't religious. He said, I'm a man and there's God. He said, why do you want to put a label on me? He said, when you put a label on me, I have to do certain things. I have to behave in a certain way. But the truth I have discovered doesn't need that. These are a hindrance, because they create division. Whereas what I've realized is oneness. We are all one. Why label ourselves in division? The problem with religion is that each one feels that their philosophy is right, and it creates a division in humanity. So Guru Nanak, let's say, came and famously said, I'm neither Hindu nor Muslim at that time. And he said, I am just one with God. I'm just a man who believes in God. God is the same God for everybody. Why do you create these divisions? Then, further to this, you say that the saints are, in the background. Guru Nanak wasn't. He used to dress as half Muslim and half Hindu on purpose. So when he walked about, because he was fearless, as he says in the Mool Mantra, he's fearless. He fears none. So he walked fearlessly. And it creates questions. People said to him, what are you? Are you Hindu? Are you Muslim? At that time, these were the predominant religions. Christianity wasn't so prevalent in India at that time. And he said, I'm neither. He said, but you dress as both. He said, I'm both. He said, I'm Hindu to the Hindus, I'm Muslim to the Muslims. He could quote equally from the scriptures. He said, whatever you want me to be, I'll be that. He said, but I'm also beyond that. So he was very clear. He was stoned often, by the Brahmins in particular, who felt that they were taking authority away from him. Because a lot of people liked his idea, because at that time there was so much conflict in India between Hindus and Muslims. And there's a man who says, you don't have to belong to either. Just follow the Lord. I will show you how to do. Follow my demonstration. So he lived that demonstration, let's say. Kabir is the same. A very, very famous 14th century saint, predating a little bit Guru Nanak, although they were comparable, they lived around the same time. Kabir is a little older. And again, he was very controversial. So saints have come in direct conflict with the authorities. The most famous one was Jesus, who was eventually crucified for telling the truth, because the Jews didn't like what he was saying. So you see, it's okay. Sometimes you say things which may raise questions, but you decide how you present that to them. But when you discover something greater, it is something that fills you within. It is not something that you can intellectualize, actually. When somebody follows a higher truth, it's because they have what they call a calling within them, a pull within them, that even their mind can't reason it. Sometimes the mind says, why are you doing this? Don't bother, just follow this ritual. It makes you happy, it's simple, easy to do. Yeah? But no, something within said, no, the Atma, which is stirring up within you, wants the truth. See, the Atma only has one point of view, the truth. And because of that energy within you, you become a truth seeker. Once you become a truth seeker, you come to the company of the saints, you see, who are truth realized. Again, this word truth is the important one. We're not talking about any deities or any gods at this point. These terms have been added later to describe truth in manifestation. Yeah, so they give it a name. But actually, there's no God. It's just truth. That truth power that manifested everything. And when that truth power manifests in a particular form, give it any label you like. It doesn't matter. But that truth relies within each and every one of us as well. And when the time comes and that truth starts stirring up, whether you're an atheist, a scientist, a religious person, a philosopher, an unease settles within you. You start questioning everything you're doing, even religious things. And you say, why am I doing this? You say, whom have I found who has been saved by this means? And you find none. They're still having the troubles of life. They say, despite all these things, they still have problems. And they make some excuses. Maybe I didn't do the puja enough, seriously. Maybe I didn't do the Borg right, or whatever. But actually it's not. Surely if the prescribed methods worked, it would work every time. Otherwise it's random, just like everybody else. When you look at the statistics of success, there's no difference between the people that go to the temples and the people who live outside of it. So the interesting thing is, when you look at a person who becomes realized, then you see miracles happening around them. But these people don't publicize these miracles because they know that people will laugh at them and say that they're fake and they're this and they're that because they don't follow a particular religious method. They have direct communion with the Lord, and as a result, the world revolves around them. So they may go through the trials of life, but they don't seem to be affected by it at all. So when Jesus was crucified, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." He didn't worry that he was being crucified. He knew that was to come. He even said before, the night before, the Last Supper, he said to Judas, "Go and do what must be done," meaning betray me, so that I may be crucified. Similarly, Guru Arjan Dev, who was sat on a hot burning plate, poured hot sand and oil over him, and really gruesome kind of tortures, he kept smiling all the way through. And the more they tried to torture him, the more he was smiling. They couldn't, eventually they threw him in the water. They couldn't kill him. They couldn't take the smile off his face. But before that, he had 3 opportunities to escape, because he was in prison before that, and help came, and he said no. He said, "This is how I must leave. Let them have their way." Because he wanted to make a point of this. Now, in Sikhism, this is lost. There's big debates about Guru Arjan Dev's death, how it transformed Sikhism from that point to adopt a more warrior Sikhs and become a billion, a sword and the spiritual belief one on each hand. Yeah. So, but he set an example to the Sikhs of the time and the others, that the truth shall prevail no matter what. No matter how they tortured him, no matter they did it, he kept a smile on his face because he represented the truth. And he felt nothing. Jesus felt nothing when he died either. And the evidence of that is what they said and what they did during that time. These people are remarkable. Such a one tells us, hold on, there is something far greater than this simple life that we're living. based upon rituals and customs and ceremonies. Because I guarantee you take an ordinary priest from a temple and you put him to the sword, he'll squeal like a wimp. He won't. But you take a realized one, a fully realized soul, one who's in tune with the Lord, one who's attached to the Lord, and such a one will take their punishment happily. He said, cut off my head. I'm happy with it. So there are demonstrations of the differences, you see. But because this is a drama, a play, everybody has to start somewhere. You know, in order to get to the top of the ladder, you have to step on the lower rails first. Is it wrong for a man to climb from the lower rails to reach the top? Do you criticize him for that? No. Because you know, as long as he keeps going, doesn't stop, and say, I've had enough, I've reached the fifth, I'm not going any higher. That might be a problem for him. You know, he has to gain this confidence to go higher. But one who reaches the top, guaranteed is going to reach the top by stepping on the shoulders of the lower rails. So following a religion, science or philosophy is no barrier to spiritual truth. But if you stop there and you don't go all the way, then that is a great disservice to you, who has the ability to reach the very end. Your time has not yet come. Your confidence is not there to proceed. Therefore, you have to come back. And this is mentioned in religions in various ways. You know, so yes, there's no harm in following any religion. But if you're a truth seeker and you want to know the ultimate truth because it comes in you as a need, this is not an intellectual exercise. Intellectually, you'll never get there. But when it becomes as a need, you'll be drawn to that higher truth seeking helplessly. It's not in your hands. They call it a calling in Christianity, and therefore you will carry on up the ladder. Yes?
But this need is torturous. It's actually very painful.
Love is painful too. But no, who would ever fall out of love? Who would ever give up love?
Yes. I would like to address that question later. I have a list of questions.
Okay.
And I will have to find the time, and I will have to put them to you, because they do need answering. But on a Sunday like this, I met up with a very intelligent and educated Englishman friend of mine who said, Tavinder says, why don't you learn French or something? From me, I thought, what's this thing? And he said, all this effort, thought, time you're putting in, you go to these various religious people from various religions, you talk so much about them, but you crave for an answer and you tell me you don't have an answer. All this effort, you know, if you... And I said, yeah, I said, Rob, I see what you mean. I believe, given my schoolboy French, that I could very quickly be quite fluent in French, and at least that would be helpful to me. I'm afraid to go onto the continent because I will not be able to converse properly. And if I could speak French, I would. So he made a very important point there. And I just wanted to relate to that with what you had said, that yes, this need exists in some people, but I also wanted to say it's debilitating. It's actually, from a practical point of view, I can say it prevents you from living a life.
Because it's not of the mind. That which is not of the mind has to stop the mind in its track. Because the mind is designed to keep you going forever in illusory creation. How do you stop a massive train? You need some big explosion on the track. So yes, by its very nature it's debilitating, because if it wasn't, you would not lose track. You'd just bypass it, ignore it, and carry on in the mind. Okay. It has to knock you about.
So taking that further to a very important point for myself, coming from my background, you said how the creation is the will of God. You also said there's no such thing as God. There is the truth.
Yes.
And
the concept of God in the human perspective doesn't exist. The concept of truth God does exist. There's not saying that there is no God in the sense of at all in any form. I'm explaining that the humanized concept of God doesn't exist in the way it is portrayed, which is why there are so many misunderstandings. Because truth can only be one. You see, the moment you humanize God and you give it qualities like it has so many arms and it carries so many symbols, you've narrowed it down, you've limited it. Now you've given it a form, which means you can have 100 versions of that. But truth, you can only have one. Ultimate truth. It's a universal thing, you see. And we have taken that truth and conceptualized it and called it God because we've shaped it in some form. God is always referred to as a form of some sort, you see. Whereas truth has no form. You can't picture what truth looks like. It has no shape.
And you said how Guru Nanak Dev Ji in the very
Yes.
first opening verses
Yes.
said that he is
Yes.
formless, is omnipresent.
Yes. And he is truth.
And he is truth.
Yes.
Exactly. And you went on to say that the Sikhs ran into a problem when they said that they believed in the book.
Yes, I don't want to go too much into that. It's a very sensitive area in
It's a sensitive
Sikhism.
area. Of course, the Sikhs do not believe in the book. We do not believe in the paper, the ink.
No, they call the book their living guru, and that's a problem. There's a problem that contradicts the contents of the Guru Granth Sahib itself. So that's an interesting idea, but I don't really want to go into that here because that's a discussion between the Sikhs at another time, and most welcome to explain further to a group of Sikh communities.
Again, I wasn't
Yes.
going in a political direction.
Yes.
I'm going in a personal direction.
Yes,
And that's why I put the question here.
yes,
So if I, okay, forget the Sikhs. Let's think about
Yeah.
me. So in the Guru Granth Sahib, I do not see ink and paper. I see the writings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, I see the writings of Kabir, who define God in the way that you've said is truthful definition. That we have called the Shabad, and we said that Shabad is God,
the creative power.
the creative power. And so I don't, as a Sikh, when I bow down to the Guru Granth Sahib, do not believe in the book as being God, the ink, the paper, the colouring. It's the Shabad.
But that Shabad resonates within you. Why not bow down to the Shabad within you and become realized? I can tell you, you can bow before any holy book, no matter how great. For 1,000,000 years, you'll never become realized. So if that's all you do, this is the problem. This is the shape of religion. It's ritual based. But if you go within and bow to that Shabad, connect to that Shabad within you that resonates from your own soul, that is what the Guru Granth Sahib is telling you to do.
It is.
Now it is worthwhile you revering that book because that book has given you a means by which to become realized.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that. I agree with that.
Yes.
Going further then again, but I'm being told that I cannot realize by going inside. I need to be rescued.
By own effort you cannot cross the mind.
That's
The
right.
mind will not give itself up.
Okay, so I can't go any further than that understanding. I need to be rescued by a holy master.
Yes. Because the soul operates outside the realm of time and space, outside the realm of effort, outside the realm of doing. If something operates outside the realm of doings, efforts, time and space, how can time, space or effort get you to that level?
Correct, and both you and I are scientists, and I love science, and we know there's no such thing as nothing, because if we look at nothing, put nothing in front of us,
Yeah, it's just a concept.
we find a positron goes in this direction, and
Yeah.
the negative.
There's no true vacuum, in fact.
There's no true vacuum goes in the other direction. We can see one as good as one and one as bad, but actually the whole thing still stays neutral. Okay, the creation is
The
neutral.
conservation of energy is the law.
Yes, that's universal law.
Yes.
And also, time is relative.
Yes. Einstein proved that.
Yes, it's all happening now. The electron is going in one direction now, the positron is going in the other. They then come back and annihilate each other, and then they go in the other direction. All this is happening. It's
So how is this relating to your spiritual question?
Thank you. So the spiritual question there is that things are as they are. I am here because God willed it.
Naturally. But you too are also God, disguised as a
Yeah.
drop. So there's a question from which angle you're looking at it. From this point of view, the lower level, it looks like you have the creator who's thrown you into this mix. Yeah.
So
But when you go to the level of the creator, you realize you voluntarily came for the drama.
So if we label the positron the happy bit and the negatron the unhappy bit, why do I believe that God has made me the unhappy bit, the striving?
These are intellectual games you're playing with the mind. It has no part of true spirituality.
But
You are a philosopher in this case. This is what philosophers do, and they never come to an answer.
but it's driving me to look for an answer.
You need
and
to
I'm not-
move beyond philosophy. You need to search within yourself, do the practice, have faith in what you've been told, meditate within yourself and see the truth for yourself. Once you see the truth yourself, you will never have any more questions like this. This is mind games. The mind is distracting you because it's the nature of the mind to distract you in 101 ways with a million questions, which has no ultimate answer because each one has an individual case for reality. So if you ask somebody else who has a basis of reality, says, what is your reality? They say, I've been through this and this now. They say, but that's not my reality. Maybe I'm doing something wrong.
You took us through the history of spirituality.
Yes.
It seems to me that actually the archaic humans, as you put it, had it right in the first place because they saw spirit in everything, and actually that is true because.
But they didn't
everything-
understand anything about where those spirits came from, their connection with them. They saw them mostly in fear. So archaic humans lived pretty close to the level of the animals in that they lived in constant fear of these spirits. Hence you had these sacrifices, the concept of animal sacrifices, even human sacrifices, to please the spirits. So this was not something that they fully understood, but they feared.
But Adiyogi was not right in thinking, in asking that why am I conscious? Why do I strive for an answer? When in reality, other things do have consciousness. In fact, this chair is conscious.
He was talking about the fact that this type of consciousness found in human beings is the only one that can investigate and look within itself and question, whereas all other things are conscious because they're part of divinity, but they don't have that ether faculty, the fifth element that human beings have, the element of inquiry and reasoning. They do not reason. Look at a plant. The plant will never reason anything out. It will just tolerate whatever is given to it.
But I believe I'm reasoning and not philosophizing. I do not believe I'm a philosopher. I believe I feel what I feel.
When you question with levels of the mind, playing games on words, this is philosophy. When you investigate in a practical sense, going within you and seeking the truth and then speaking from that which you have seen, that this becomes spiritual.
But when I hear a very tuneful one single note of sarangi, and I
Yes.
think of God, and that's how I got interested.
These
in
are
God.
all mental impressions. The mind itself is made of a higher level. Higher mind is interested in truth as well, but it's interested in its own version of the truth, in which the mind still exists. Its version of truth says, I, Home, the ego, must exist in this level of truth. It does not entertain the idea of surrendering the ego and abandoning the I and becoming nothing. No mind will ever give up itself like a drunken fool. Therefore, it needs to be pulled into submission. You need a power greater than the mind to pull it into submission. Therefore, the Lord has devised a means by which this can happen. So spirituality is completely different to intellectual mind gameplay. There's many books written intellectually, there's many descriptions. No one reciting all these words will ever be liberated. But one who goes within themselves with the grace of the Guru is empowered to cross the level of the mind. Then those ones become fully realized.
So not only is God very, very near me, He is in fact me.
It contains within you
But what separates me and Him is the veil
Mind.
of ego,
the mind, I,
the mind,
Yes.
I.
who believes this character is real
Yeah.
and asking this question.
Okay, so I go inside and I try to self-realize. Okay, again, a very personal question, and I'm trying to find my way here. But I can't do it until a Satgur
Yes,
helps me.
when
with
you're
it.
ready to not play any more games with the mind, but want to know the truth at any cost, So Guru Gobind Singh famously said, "Are you prepared to cut off your head and hand it to the Guru's feet?" He means surrender the ahankar, the pride, the ego, right? Are you prepared to hand it over? Give yourself up completely. All your intellect, all your greatness, everything about you that makes you the Jeev, are you prepared to hand it over? When that point comes, the Guru will come.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to get at. So can I just relax and give up my ego?
You can't give up the ego on your own, but you can
help.
you can first become a true human being. Before you try to be anything else, become a human being from a human animal. And that means living by a certain code, which makes you into a noble human being. Once you are a noble human being, then higher mind awakens and responds to this, and it pulls you up to its higher reaches by itself, and then starts this journey. But that's not enough, because obviously you cannot cross the mind by the mind. You cannot leave the contact of the mind by the energy of the mind. It cannot happen. You need something greater. But that's when grace, compassion, mercy, and all these terms used for the Lord comes into play. Because when you reach that point of seeking, you are worthy of rescue. Then the Lord sends the rescuer in the form of a Sant Satguru, who then comes and liberates you and shows you the way out. So, and this is the means that anyone who has attained the highest truth has always obtained. Nobody's done it by any other means.
So I can relax and stop worrying and
don't worry.
And
practice
and torturing myself. And
don't torture. Why torture?
But my rescue will come to me.
If you are a true seeker, no matter what, if you say, "I do not understand fully everything that's happening, but I have faith that there's a greater power than me who knows this secret. I will wait for my time, but in the meantime, I will continue to be a true seeker, seeking the truth of everything and improving my life, becoming a noble human being to the best of my ability." And the central feature of that is do no harm. If you can follow this one commandment of all the rules and the precepts, do no harm, then when you've mastered the do no harm idea, you can then start thinking at the same time, seek the truth, become a truth seeker. And when you seek the truth, the Lord will come. Yes?
When you say do no harm, do you mean it in every aspect?
In every aspect. Whether it's to yourself, by abusing yourself, or putting wrong food in your body that you know is harmful, just to delight the tongue, or harming somebody else through speech, actions. Intentional harm. Naturally, you can't live in this world without causing harm. When you walk, you kill insects, but you don't do it intentionally. When we say do no harm, we mean intentionally harm. Speaking bad of others, spreading gossips, rumours, harming others, physically harming them. Yes.
Even thought, I would include into that.
Yes, thought of judgment, judging others. When the Lord is the doer behind everything, there's nothing but the Lord in creation who's doing everything. Who are you to judge? If you play judge, then you play the game of illusion, Maya. If you step outside the judgment game and you say all is as it should be, and you focus only on your own realization, this is the difference between spirituality and moralizing of religion, let's say. You focus only on your own truth, say, I don't care what the world is doing. I'm not going to judge them. They're all on their own journey. I make sure that I don't fault. Put all that energy you're doing outside back to yourself and say, I must carefully watch myself. And when somebody criticizes you and say, you so-and-so, you laugh at them and say, ha, you found this one fault. I know 1,000 others you don't know about. My secret. So you think, what of it? Okay, I'm lucky. You only see one fault in me. Thank you. And move on. Because you know so many others. Now, a person who's self-improvement, on a self-improvement role, they focus only on themselves, which is what you're here for. And when you're free from that, help others. Because that compassion that rises within you as you feel sorry for yourself and the position you're in, naturally you see others are in the same position, but they don't know it. So you help them out of compassion, not because somebody told you to do it. That's false. That's hypocrisy. You don't want to help. You're doing it because you think you're going to get some favor. But when you become at a certain level of understanding, you want to help because it is the right thing to do. Okay? Yes, I think. Shall we move on to the next question? I think we exhausted this. This is first question.
that shut me up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, next question. It is said that there is only one God. What is the relationship between the 33 million demigods in Hinduism, for example, or other gods from most religions with the Supreme Lord of Sant? And are there other sets of demigods for other universes like parallel universes?
Goodness. I've really kind of explained this. The concept of creating the demigods or gods in the mind of religious observers from different religions. So they take the one God. When that one God manifests into the many individual attributes of the Lord, so we have these attributes manifested in creation, we call them deities or lords, and we give them names. Now in Hinduism, they understood rightly so that every power that you see in existence, every form, is a power, a spirit. And therefore they have 33 million gods, right? And it might sound at first that this is a crazy idea, but when you understand what they mean by the god, like modern Hinduism has lost its way completely. Back in the day, when they were discovering these concepts, they knew exactly what that meant. For example, the Lord of the Wind, the Lord of the Rain. They knew about the Lord, the Mother Earth, the Lord of the Earth, the Lord of growing crops. They understood that there's a power that comes from the Lord. Consciousness is in everything, and these consciousnesses are powers. So they worshipped them, or believed in them according to their need. They recognized that the earth was mother, that is the breadbasket of our sustenance. They understand the Lord of the wind, of volcanoes and everything. They understood the Lord was behind it. But they limited themselves only to that aspect of the Lord. So they tried to gain favor by praying to that Lord for some benefit. And then the concept of ritual and ceremony, like going to the temples and doing puja and things like that, came about to win favor. So Hinduism, let's say, expanded from that, and it created so many rituals and ceremonies depending on what you need doing and fixing. And this is very limited, because this is not dealing with you being rescued at all. This is dealing with a particular aspect of life and you're trying to solve it. And only if it's written in your script, because the Lord's will shall prevail, not yours. You may do these things and it may not work. The neighbor does it and it works, because it's written in their script and not in yours. So the entire events of our life is already scripted, whether we do any of these rituals or not. But to occupy the mind, because remember, the mind is a little bit ignorant and it likes to be in control. It likes to feel that it is doing something, that it is the truth, not the soul. It says, no, I am because I am. I think, therefore I am. I exist. And therefore I am in control. So the mind says, I'm going to do a ritual to overcome this demonic thing that's happening to me or something. So these rituals were born out of the mind. Whereas real spirituality connects with the truth within. One thing is solving problems, which is what most religions kind of harp on about. And then there's the truth, seeking the very truth, no matter what's going on in this world, which lies beyond the physical world. I want out. I don't want to solve the problems of this world. I want to get out. That's a completely different thinking compared to the vast majority of, say, religious followers who just want to have a better and easier life. So religions naturally are very popular because they offer, for those who believe in such things, that there is a means for them to have a better, more comfortable life by doing all these different kinds of rituals. Historically, we know that hasn't worked. When we look at all the people who are doing these things, even today, they really routinely go, and the success rate is no different to somebody who doesn't. There's been lots of surveys, even by Hindu scholars themselves, which is why India is moving away now from the religious side of Hinduism, and the younger generation, Generation Z, are rebelling because they feel that when they look now intellectually at things, not blindly as the elders did, but intellectually, when they look at the evidence of success versus failure, they find it's no different statistically to every other American who doesn't believe in anything. So they're thinking, what's the point? And they're right. Unfortunately, though, they have another agenda as well, which is not very good, and they just want to enjoy their world in a capitalist way. So they're moving India away from a spiritual sourcing. Rather than seeking the higher truth of it, they say, forget the whole truth thing, let's just become materialist. We find comfort in material things, so they want to become westernized. So they're looking at America and the Western world, which is unfortunate for them to lose that spiritual heritage. That's the sad thing with this Generation Z. The good thing is they're questioning. Anybody who questions things, the validity of something, is right to question it. You know, you should question everything. No saint will say, just take my word for it. First, if it makes sense to you, you can adopt it. But then to prove it, you have to prove it to yourself by practicing. So spirituality is all about the practice. It's about seeing for yourself firsthand. So that now you know what that person is talking about. So when you read the Holy Scriptures, for example, I quote from the Guru Granth Sahib. Now, when I read that scripture, I understand fully where the saint was coming from who wrote it. What was their mindset, why they said those things, what they were on about. I don't just read this as this reverent text that, oh, I'm lost to it, it's so poetic and beautifully put, and I get lost in the words. No, I see beyond the words, the sentiment behind it, the meaning behind it, and how I could have mentioned it in 100 different ways. And they happen to write it that way. But religious people will follow it line by line, like a book of law. Each word they debate. There's whole debating schools about the particular words used. And if the Guru or the Jesus or anybody came now and they looked at people doing this rather than the practice, they'd be laughing at them. He said, that's not the reason I said these things. I could have said the same thing 100 different ways. It's the sentiment that I want you to get and practice, not how the words were formed on the page, not how they're written. But we have great debates, big scholars, you know, big university grants studying these holy books, right? Paid a lot of money to investigate word for word what they say. These books are not law. They're a rough guide as to the truth. And that truth cannot be painted accurately in words. Which is why, for example, the Guru Granth Sahib says, do not recite words. Do not recite these things. There's no benefit, no value in it. Guru Nanak was particularly against recitations of words. He said, do the Simran, Jap, meaning the repeating the holy mantra given to you by a living Guru. Go within and see, connect with the Shabad within. He said, Guru Shabad, Shabad is Guru. That's the real Guru. Because when people were trying to worship him physically, they were doing exactly what they do with the religions. He said, no, I am the means, not the end. He said, through me, you can realize the Shabad. And the Shabad is the real Guru. So he is very clear about that. You know, and luckily Sikhs today still kind of maintain that understanding. You don't really see them worshipping the pictures of the Gurus, although they've got pictures of them. They don't generally do worship to them like other religions do, luckily. But who knows, that might change in the future as they become more religious.
Thank you. Right, moving on to Christians. Why do Christians believe in a God that judges us and says that human beings are sinful by nature and that only Jesus can give us salvation?
You see, like I mentioned with all the religions, they try to limit God into something like themselves. And because they judge, so they think that God judges. Now actually, this part of the Bible does not come from the New Testament, it comes from the Old Testament. The Old Testament, or the Jewish part of the Bible, is not really related to Jesus' teaching at all. It was put together in medieval times to try and bring the Jews on board, because the old Christians believed that the Jews killed their prophet. So they now wanted to bring Judaism into the fold as almost like a revenge. So then they were thrown together, the Old Testament and New Testament. The Old Testament account is a vengeful God. And that vengeful God does exist in the astral realm. It's a very low-level God. It's a deity of the astral realm whose job is to play out the justice game. So if you subscribe to justice, not forgiveness, to justice game, then you'd be subject to this justice God. And of course this justice God believes in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, as they believe. And this is quite a cruel thing, because in the justice game there's no mercy. But then Jesus come along, born into this system, but he suddenly introduced something called forgiveness. Yeah, which is not mentioned in the Old Testament, only in the New Testament. The concept of forgiveness, love your neighbour as yourself and all of that, turn the other cheek. That was completely alien to the Jews at the time. That's why they nailed him on the cross. Because they wanted vengeance for their loss. You know, as they felt that they were betrayed by so many others since the time of Moses. They were given the promised land and now they were slaves to the Romans. So they were angry. And there's Jesus coming along, saying, no, forgive them. He said, hold on a minute, you're supposed to be our king, our leader, and you're saying forgive them and even turn the other cheek? They said, we're not having that. So they nailed him. So you see, there's a misunderstanding in Christianity. If you look at the Old Testament, it's a horrific account of very human activities. Even there, the God says, I'm a jealous God. And if you worship other than me, there'll be hell to pay. Now, what kind of a God is that? But at that time, when people were not so advanced intellectually, that was perfectly acceptable. That the God of the Jews was their God, and unless they pacified this God, he would wreak hell upon them, plagues, and there are many things that were thrown against, that were accounted for in the Bible, at the time of Moses and so on. But so this type of God is a justice God, but not the God of Jesus. The God of Jesus was a forgiving God, just like the Gurus, just like everybody else. Right? You could say the next level of God. If you think of God as hierarchy, then Jesus represented the next level.
Thank you. Why is God not biased towards any part of the creation?
Because he is everything in creation. If you are everything, how could he be biased? How could he be biased towards the left hand or the right hand of your body? You treat them equally, because they're part of you. In the same way, the Lord recognizes that all is his form. How can he be biased towards any one of his form? Instead, he looks back and says that this expression of glory is played very beautifully.
Thank you. Is the totality of consciousness mentioned in Sant of ultimate goodness or ultimate neutrality?
Say that again?
Is the totality
Yes.
of consciousness mentioned in Sant of ultimate goodness or ultimate neutrality?
These are human labels. The totality of consciousness are all the attributes of existence. Put any label you like on it. It's not neither good nor is it bad, neither is it neutral. It is. It is the divine expression of everything, including all of them and more. So it's wrong to try to limit this contextually in text form. It's not a correct understanding. It is everything.
I think the next question you've kind of touched on, but I'll ask it anyway. Why does God or the Supreme Lord allow certain negative things to happen in creation which so many people disagree with?
You see, it depends on whose point of view. One person is negative, another person says it's positive. For example, when a villain robs a bank, the people having their savings say that this is a criminal act. The robber says, no, this was good, we got paid, we're going to have a lavish lifestyle. Ask which opinion is valid. Both feel they have valid opinion. Who is right and wrong? This gameplay of looking at things as right and wrong, or good or bad, is very human experience. We divide everything into duality because we don't understand the oneness behind everything, that this is just a play. For example, when we watch a movie or a film, we see maybe some wrong or bad things going, but we don't want to stab the television or break it or smash it because we know it's only a play. We know there's no reality to it, so we are entertained by these concepts. If we translate that into human life and we understand that the Lord is the doer behind everything, then what is there that's good or bad? You can put any label on it, depending whether you're the robber or the one being robbed. Each one has their point of view. Put them both into the court and ask them, who is speaking the truth? They both speak the truth.
Doesn't the good and bad just add to the drama of things anyway?
Yes.
Because if we didn't have it, we'd be very accepting of everything. It'd be pretty
There'll be no drama, there'll be no story. You have to have duality. You have to have day and night, good and bad, beauty and ugliness. All these things and more. Duality has to exist for a drama to take place. And the duality means a duel between these two opposing forces creates drama. If you had only one, for example, if there's only light, nobody would even know what darkness is. The concept of darkness and fumbling around in the dark would never be there. If everybody was enlightened, then what's the point of seeking enlightenment? There'd be no drama. Yes?
So, good and bad, does that raise consciousness, a higher consciousness?
is good and bad the higher consciousness?
The fact that we have good and bad. Which
This is what we label.
Yes. But does it raise our consciousness because there is a morality to something and there is a lack of morality?
Yeah, the practical aspects of karma is because you live in a karmic world. So the reason why living a pious or noble or way of life is important in initial stages, because you're subject to the law of karma. And the law that you live in says that if you do something wrong, there's a punishment, retribution. The law of cause and effect. So from a practical point of view, not an emotional, if you take the emotion out of it, from a purely practical point of view, if you don't want to suffer anymore, then stop doing the things that are creating the suffering. So from a practical point of view, if you have a less suffering life, you have more opportunity to seek the truth, because you'll be more at peace of mind. So these laws were laid down to create a peace of mind, but not as judgment. There's an important difference between blame and judgment and a practical aspect of living this life. Yeah, when we separate the emotion out of it and deciding that we're higher or lower than other people, if we take away that aspect and say we're all struggling souls in creation, whether a villain or a saint, and each one is making their journey, then this moral code becomes useful to you, because it's not boosting your ego. It's not judging the creation and the creator. You are now using it as a practical means to lessen the load weighing you down in creation, so you have more free time to think of higher things. If you take it from a practical point of view, which is why these moral codes were introduced, then it is fine. But if you throw emotion into the mix and use it as a means of judgment, you're in trouble. As Jesus said, as you judge, so shall ye be judged. So don't do it. When you point a finger, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So don't do it. Okay, yes.
Okay, next question. What are the highest attributes of God in religion or true spirituality?
You see, truth really is the highest attribute, because there's nothing beyond truth. Truth is all enclosing, all encompassing. Everything is contained within truth. So I would say truth is the highest. Now truth, when manifested in creation, divides itself up into further attributes. For example, you have form, right? When truth is divided into form, you have different expressions of truth. Now, if you focus only on the forms and not on the origin of those forms, you're limiting your understanding of truth. So truth is the ultimate and is divided up into form, into manifestation, and that manifestation, you can put labels on it, and depending on how high up those manifestations are, you'll get closer to the origin of the truth or further away. Because as each manifestation comes about, it itself creates more manifestations, and it's endless. So by the time you get here to the physical, we have hardly any resemblance of what truth is. We don't even know about the soul. We think we are true, that when we look in the mirror, this is all there is. We actually believe that, which is complete nonsense, because we know that we're going to die, that we're not eternal. How can we think that we are all important when we can't even control our life? Yeah.
How is it that conscious God can also be in the form of unconscious matter?
Actually, nothing is unconscious. Even matter, like the stone, which you think is unconscious, not. It's just that it's vibrating at such a low level of consciousness, it does not exhibit life. But when you look at it from the Lord's point of view, everything is consciousness, everything is part of it. It's just vibrating at different frequencies. The higher the vibration, the more lifelike it becomes. So the entire cosmology, the entire creation is divided up into regions of vibrating consciousnesses, which is how the realms came about, which is a subject for another time. Depending on the spiritual vibration energy of the Shabbat, at that point, a certain type of manifestation or creation exists. So everything is consciousness, but at the very lowest level, where the vibration is so slight, hardly, it doesn't appear to be consciousness to us.
Thank you. Why do so many people believe in a higher power or God, yet don't know how to seek him or her, nor even want to do so by adjusting their life accordingly so they can evoke more grace?
You see, the problem is that believers are not knowers. You see, when you're a believer, your line of thinking is, I believe that because it concurs with my views of life without any proof. I don't need proof, I just believe. Belief doesn't require proof. A knower is one who has an experience of it. He said, I know it to be true. I don't believe it's true. I know it's true. It's a different level. He has an actual experience of that thing. And when one becomes an experience of the truth, nothing can take that away. Whereas a believer can change their beliefs. One minute they believe this, next minute they believe that. How easy is it to change somebody's opinion? Yeah, because it's based on belief. Belief is not eternal. It's not lasting. It's not even sustainable. You can't sustain a belief system. But a knower, that's at a different level. So people who subscribe to belief systems, they follow the belief systems of religions, let's say, and the baseline. But if they go higher end of that religion, to the spiritual core of that religion, all religions have a spiritual core, and they take that, then they will find out, oh, now there's a different way of looking at this altogether. But people who don't have the energy or the drive or the will to seek anything further, they're happy at a lower level. So they're happy to follow a belief system because everybody else is doing the same. They don't want to be left out. They want to be part of a community. These are not truth seekers. A truth seeker says, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. They don't care. They're going to lose their life in this quest for the truth. They want to find the truth. Totally different.
Thank you.
Yes, the right question.
Just a quick one. Would you say that between believers and non-believers, there's some people won't even follow religion, but they may look at governments and say, this is the truth, and then that becomes a belief and a belief system.
Political belief systems. There's political or secular belief. Yeah, you're right. People have, this is the nature of beliefs. You see, whereas truth is one. And any of you who become truthfully must all speak of the same thing. But when you have believers, there are millions of them, all different views.
Yeah, because there is a very, I think there's a large danger that it's only seen as religions who set beliefs when
oh no, science has beliefs, philosophers have beliefs, political belief systems. Belief systems are used everywhere. It's just that in the context we're speaking about is religious. Yes.
So those who follow these rituals earnestly, believing it, there's some truth in it, that's still seeking, isn't it?
They'll have their reward. Their reward will be in the manner that they've done, practical.
But going back to your
not spiritual.
Going back to your example of the ladder, it's part of the ladder, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's seeking.
This is why saints don't judge. If somebody is following their religion really ardently and earnestly, the saint will never try to dissuade them. He won't say, and if you ask the saint, I've come to you, right, for help, the saint will say, what can I offer you? And they say, well, we practice this religion and everything. Can you offer us anything? He says, not right now. Come to me when this religion no longer serves you. You're no longer satisfied. Then I can give you something. So the saint's point of view is very different to the religions. They will never interfere. They'll say, go on. They say, are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? Even to a non-religious person. He says, carry on. That's why Jesus said, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to inquire about the kingdom of heaven, because he's happy. So such a man comes to Jesus and say, what should I do? He says, carry on. He said, when you're fed up, come to me. Then I'll help you. Yes.
Would you not say that they are still tools to get to?
Everything is a tool. Human birth is a tool in itself. Being born human, you're thinking. Even if you're a villain, some little bits of information and observations coming your way. That's going to elevate you. Yeah, even as a villain. So yes, everything is a tool. But from the point of view of indulging in somebody, like taking them on board, they have to be at a certain level. So the saints wait for that person to be at a certain level. They don't try to doctrinate them, don't preach to them. They don't try to convert them.
Because it is a journey.
It is a journey. The saint recognizes where they're at. They know that they're doing this and they wish them well. Yes.
Sorry, but it's a journey that can sometimes be predefined. Yes, we know everything.
It's all predefined.
We know it's all predefined. But you mentioned the birth of a child. That child could have a predisposition to paranoia, schizophrenia, OCD,
Yes.
or very focused, and you know that he's going to go high in the world career-wise, doesn't care about anything else but has a good focus. So recently a friend of a friend committed suicide at the age of 49, and he'd been ill all his life's teens and onwards. So sometimes the way you are made, the way God made you, predefines your behavior, and sometimes some of the behavior is your own choosing. I assume this is all karma.
Yes, everything is karma.
Yes.
The script has been written before you take birth. Like Guru Nanak says, first the script is written, then you take birth to fulfill it. What free will have you got? Free will is a human expression of wanting to be in control. We heard from the Holy Scriptures, only the Lord's will prevails. So, the Masters say to you, live in the Lord's will. It's easier. Because if you try to promote your own will, you're going to get battered about. If you want a peaceful life, go with the flow. Live in the Lord's will. It's wisdom. It's practical. Yeah? So yes, everybody has their time. When somebody comes into the creation, they're evolving on their journey. Some people are lower, some people are higher. From the Lord's point of view, he doesn't judge. He even helps the lower one. You know, he doesn't say, oh, because you're low level, I'm going to leave you suffering on the ground. No, that's not how it works. So true saints will always help everyone in need, no matter even if they're at the low level. Yes?
Why do masters still take part in worldly rituals?
Only because they're part of a community, not because it means anything. Because if they're saying to you that you can follow your custom, your religion of your particular culture, your country, then why should they not set that example? If they go against all of this and say, no, we're going to refuse all of this, then you're going to say this is hypocrisy. You're saying on one hand that we can do it and you're not doing this. So we should follow you. Because masters know that everyone is at different levels of progression, evolution on this journey. So they cannot dismiss anybody. They're not here to judge. Masters never judge. They are saviors. They are forgivers. They are helpers. Judgment does not enter their dictionary.
Yeah, I was thinking about the recent Babaji attending that unveiling of that temple in India.
Yes. He was invited.
Yeah, what is the point?
Because he's trying to show to India, right, because you understand India, the politics there, that he's not against anyone. That he's there to represent the truth of individuals, not the mass society. What harm is there in him taking part in a worldly ceremony?
But what is the point of it from a spiritual point
It's
of
not
view?
point. Life has no point. Right, we're going to go back to a very fundamental question that people ask. Nobody's asked yet. What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of creation? The answer is, it has no purpose. It is what it is. It is the expression of the glory of divinity in every conceivable form. That, you could say, is its purpose.
But from a master's angle, there has to be a purpose.
No.
Wasn't there a purpose in giving darshan?
Ultimately, there's no purpose to anything. It is. It just is part of existence. Okay? The idea of having purpose is a human construct. Humans think that everything has to have a meaning and a purpose, because that's the game of the mind. The mind is created in duality. Therefore, what it's experiencing must have some meaning. It doesn't enjoy the experience. It doesn't like to enjoy. It wants to reason it. Whereas a soul enjoys the show and has no questions. No questions to ask. It says, this is a wonder. I'm enjoying the wonder of the creation.
But we agree there's power in darshan. Isn't it?
These are means, these are means to show where you're at. Darshan only happens when the two people come together because of the script. So, if you attribute a benefit to this, that's because it does, because those people have come together. But to say, I am going to seek the darshan against the script, you'll never get it. What is in the script is what will come before you. So now you have the darshan of a master, means your time has started ticking to salvation. It's nothing to do with you. You can't boast yourself, I have done this, I have achieved that, I have found a master. I. No, it's all the Lord. The Lord is the doer. The Lord is the one giving the darshan, and the Lord is the one having the darshan. Tell me where there is no Lord in this. This is just a gameplay of the mind.
So even the masters' movements or taking part in these...
Even their script is written. Even masters follow the karmic script. Everything they do, everything is determined.
But isn't there purpose in what they do?
The purpose only, if you want to give a purpose, is the salvation of those ones marked in their register. They do their Lord's bidding. They do their master's bidding. They do not come for themselves, as I mentioned. They do not come here to enjoy. They do not come here to make fun.
So the rest is just them playing...
They are doing their duty in absolute obedience and service to their master and their Lord. They have no other reason. Therefore, they are egoless and selfless. They're the only ones in creation who are egoless and selfless, because they do nothing for themselves.
Yeah, I just find it strange that he took part in that ritual of that mandir.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah.
What's wrong? He had a family. He married, had children, 2 children. Yeah. He married his sons off. He attended their party. You saying this is all wrong? What should he do? Stay in the cave and not mix with anybody in society? Who would go to him if he was not relatable to us? If a master cannot relate to us, who would go to him?
I would have said it was wrong if Babaji didn't attend.
Yes.
So
because then he won't be relatable. How can we say that he's like us? He's a living example of how we should be. He's supposed to demonstrate.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying there must be a purpose behind it.
You attribute the purpose you like. Anyone you think of is okay. From the Lord's point of view, no. But if you want to play that game of the mind, purpose and meaning, then do so. No harm. But when you become realized, you won't think like that. You'll just enjoy it. Oh, this was a nice experience. Oh, he came, that's nice. Don't analyze. Even Babaji himself said, you overanalyze. Don't analyze too much. Analysis leads to paralysis. Yeah? You paralyze yourself in thought and you don't do anything. Enjoy. You come here to enjoy this creation. Just enjoy it. Analyze you. What you are doing. If you want to use the power of analysis, look at yourself. How are you playing your part in this? Is it causing harm to yourself or anybody else? Are you seeking the truth within you? That's where you should use your power of vivek, discrimination and discernment. Yeah? Not looking outside of yourself. Look within. And masters demonstrate that. They take part in society in a normal way. At the same time, they are truth realized and tell you to go within. Yes?
Bit of a down-to-earth personal question.
Go on.
Talks about doing no harm.
Mm.
If you're in a husband and wife relationship and something you say harms your partner, is that doing harm? Yes,
you should ask for their forgiveness. You should say, I'm sorry. You should repent. Even if you do harm, it's not the end of the world. If you realize you've done harm, be remorseful. Say, I'm sorry. I was angry and I'll try better next time not to get to that state. It's not okay. Nobody's going to judge you for this. If you seek forgiveness, then even if they don't forgive you, the Lord will forgive you.
So if I thought that they were doing me harm, so I would...
That is your interpretation, because you're in this harm game. If you blame them and judgment always leads to pain. If you do not judge them, then you wouldn't have reacted and propagated the whole thing. Then that incident would never have happened. So you are the root of everything. If you do not judge or blame or think ill of anyone, what bad words would you have to say to anyone? Yeah. Okay, next question, shall we?
Okay, this is the last question relating to God, but I do have many others.
Okay.
What is the biggest misunderstanding people have about God?
I think we've covered that quite well, that people think that their particular version of God is the only version, and they don't understand that there's a hierarchy, let's say, away from the point of truth to the point of non-truth. So the closer you are to non-truth, that version of God will be very much more like the non-truth version than the higher truth version. So God exists in many different levels according to the level of belief system. So that's the confusion when people use this word loosely to call God. And really, the word is used too widely. It can mean so many things to so many people. If you ask an Amazon tribe member, he thinks that the tallest tree in the forest is God. Yeah. So tell me, which one is right? They're all right. They all have their own concepts. So this is the problem with understanding the nature of God, which I hope to have cleared up. But essentially, God is, you could say, divided into two parts: the soul, or the pure drop of the ocean of truth, and the non-soul, mind realms, karmic realms of illusion and maya. So most of the gods that we speak about are within the illusion, because we live in the illusion. If you live in a bubble of illusion and you can't see outside of it, then any concept you have of God is going to be based upon the illusion. It's only because the masters say, they come from beyond the level of illusion. They say, hey, there is this unspeakable, unnameable God that we cannot use any words to describe. But we come from there, we can help them. And how does it happen? Because they use the divine power to pull you. This is not something you, the mind, would ever accept. No mind has ever said, yes, 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 I like the look of this master, I'm going to follow him. It's the divine power that pulls that person from within. It becomes a need, that pull, that calling. So this is a very different level of God power compared to the illusory God powers that we have, who grants us blessings and wishes. So like a wishing well, we see God in the world as a wishing well. When we only go to God, we need something. When we don't need something, we forget that God exists. And that is how humans are. But a true seeker never forgets. He is constantly remembering the high truth. He's in awe and wonder of it. Now he has the spectacle of the show, which the others do not have, because they're in it just for what they can get. Like a chair. A chair you only value it when you need to use it for sitting on. Otherwise we ignore the chair in your house. Yeah? That is how we see God in a human form. Yes?
But with respect, that's what I see even within the Radha Swamis. So if we, the human race, miss the message of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, miss the message of Jesus Christ, miss the message of all the holy masters, we are still doing it now, even within the Radha Swami community.
Yes, anybody
I see
who is not realized, whether Radha Swami or Christian or Muslim or Buddhist, they're in the same boat.
Yeah.
What does it matter which line they're following? It means they've been put on a path. The difference is, if they've been put on a path, they have an opportunity to seek the truth. Doesn't mean they're going to take the opportunity. Yeah? It means that they may have a time where they have to come to terms with this. It may take up to 4 lifetimes, as they say, to achieve this in Radha Swami. It doesn't mean just because they're put onto the path that suddenly they're going to be noble human beings. That would be so great if it happened. Unfortunately, it does not. The same rule applies to them as applies to anybody else. Yeah, they're human first. Yeah, because they attach themselves to the human. That one who detaches from his human self and sees himself as an entity of the Lord and wants to merge with that high truth, such a one will behave differently. Such a one will be the noble human being you talk about or you wish for. All the others are on their struggling journey. It doesn't mean that, it's like if I put you on a plane to India, but you haven't got there yet. You're still on a plane. Doesn't mean that, at least, but you know that it's going to end in India. Eventually, in time. But you're not there yet. Where somebody in India, I can call upon and say, what's it like? They say, we're eating the fruit of beautiful mangoes here. They say, but my friend, I put him on a plane. I put him on the path to India. How come he's not enjoying the same mangoes? He said, he hasn't got here yet. So there's a difference. Being put onto the path, taking that journey, is totally different from reaching a destination. It's only when you look at the destination that you see, oh, now there's a difference. Otherwise, when you put somebody in a plane, what's the difference between them and anybody else not in India? In the beginning, they're crossing many nations. They're not there. But once they hit the ground and they enter the land, they've made it. Up until that point, they're on a journey. Yeah, there's no difference. The only difference is, from a deeper perspective, they're at least going in the right direction. That's the only thing you can say. Whether they're good at it or not, well, This is why there is no path. The path is individual between you and the Lord. This concept of giving names to paths. Even Radha Swami was coined by Saligramji. And Swamiji Maharaj adopted the name. He said, okay, because it means Lord of the Soul. It's just a name. Anami Purush doesn't even call himself that. Yeah, these are just names. We like to give names and labels to things as human beings so we can distinguish one from the other. It's okay from a practical point of view. But if you get hung up on this particular name or this particular journey, then you're in trouble. But if you think that an individual has been initiated or baptized or blessed by a holy master, he has an inner awakening within him, and now he's put onto the path, that's a big deal. You can give it any name you like. But merely putting someone in the path, they still have to tread it. They still have to journey that path. And while they're treading it, it's just like anybody else, to a point. But as they tread further along, they start separating themselves from others naturally. Their behavior changes, everything changes. So the real question is, how advanced are they on the truth-seeking journey? Are they behaving like everybody else? Or are these ones quite advanced and clearly demonstrating their behavior? That's the right way to look at it, where somebody's at, not the label that they are Radha Swami and non-Radha Swami, Sant here, this one there. Yeah, there are so many. Masters never like to engage in this labeling business. It's about the individual connection with the Lord and how they individually behave. And the fact that they're doing this in the form of a group, it's okay, give them a name. Yeah. Okay, yes, next question.
Okay, I've got a few questions relating to Jesus.
Hmm.
First one. Jesus is one of the most well-known masters to all of humanity and the world. Is there any lineage of masters from Jesus? That's one question. And is Sant Mat the same path or teachings that Jesus taught? And the last question within this, is there a bloodline from Jesus like in the movie The Da Vinci Code?
Well, I can answer the last bit first. No, there's no living bloodline of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was a being of his time. And he was born to a group of called Essenes, who were kind of, you could say, high-level practicing Jews, but still within the Jewish faith. Jesus actually learned most of his understanding knowledge when he went to India between the ages of 18 and 30. He travelled the Silk Road, went into India, met a lot of Hindu sages and mystics and Buddhists and so on, and he picked up a lot. And he was taught the meditation system of going within, dying while living. And he started practicing that. When he had reached a point, he was called to go back home to help the few people in his hometown in Palestine. So then he returned, and we pick up his accounts from the age of 30 to 33 in the Bible. But this gap of 12 years was missing. And he spent those 12 years actually in northern India. He walked the Silk Road, and there's many references to him. He was known as Prophet Isa, actually. And along the way, they mention him. Jesus is a Greek term. It's not actually what he was called. Yeah. In fact, the family called him Joshua. His actual Hebrew name was Joshua. But to the followers, he was Isa, prophet. So Jesus doesn't figure out any of these things. So this was his name. And so when he learned all these mystical arts, came back. So yes, a lot of his teachings are very much in line with, let's say, the saints. Because he learnt all of this. But then he tailored it for the particular tribal people he was mixing with, the Jews. So he had to understand their laws and their ways, but he still was radically different from them. Because as I spoke about earlier, the Jewish Bible, the Torah, which contains the Old Testament of the Christian Bible, was quite a graphic, violent, testing and judgmental account of the law of so-called God. Whereas Jesus came and totally broke away from the justice system and spoke about love thy neighbor, forgiveness, kindness, totally different. So the Jews said, well, he's born as one of us. He's gone away for a while. Now he comes back with all these newfangled teachings. We can't accept this. So Jesus was much more in line with Sant Mat than the mainstream faith, absolutely so. And he was on his own personal journey. In the Bible, he talks about, I have been sent by the Father to do the Father's bidding. Then he says, I live by my Father's will. He who has seen me, see the Father. And then he ends by saying, I am one with the Father. I am the Father. So you can see his own personal progression in the Bible itself, to show that he was a master in his own journey, going through his own journey. Yes.
So he went to India,
yes.
learnt the meditative process, and
yes.
died before living. So
dying while living, meditation, and all the concepts of Buddhism and Hinduism of be kind and forgiving and all those kind of stuff. Yes.
And there's one account which says that these people were Buddhists.
Yes.
And as in the Buddhist tradition,
yes.
they are able to recognize the next Lama and those three.
Yes.
Wise men.
The Magi who came from the east. Interesting, they came from the east, not from the west, not from the north, not from the south. They came from the east. It shows the connection between the east, Essenes, that particular isolated community of Jews, and the east. Yeah.
And once Jesus did his work, yes, he was crucified painfully, but he survived it, as some people.
He actually did survive it. Yes.
As some people in those times actually did survive.
Yes. He was taken down only after 6 hours.
Yeah.
It takes 3 days to die on the cross.
Yeah. And he then went back and is buried there.
That's
and
right.
There was a grave.
That's correct. That's true. Absolutely true. And that's yet for the archaeologists and science to discover, which they will in this century. And that will blow the whole lid on the resurrection faith. And what's more interesting is that the Codex Bible of 400 AD doesn't mention the resurrection, that he bodily rose from the dead at all, the original Bible. So this was added during the medieval times to make Christianity special, because at that time the Crusades were going on. They were fighting against the Jews, they were fighting against the Muslims, and they wanted to single out Jesus as the most important prophet. So he had to do something miraculous. Firstly, they invented the virgin birth, that his mother, had a virgin birth. There was no sex involved in that, and he was born as a result. And then the second thing is he rose from the dead physically, from the tomb, and is seated at the right hand of the Father and glorying in truth and all of that physically. These concepts were added later, but the original Bible does not contain them.
No resurrection, no Christianity.
That's right, basically, because according to them, he died for the forgiveness of our sins. Yeah, so he died to forgive our sins. So therefore, he then bodily resurrected, which is what will happen to us. And because he did it, those who believe in him will follow him and physically resurrect. But now you can dig up the bodies. Yeah, the bare bones are still there of the Christians who died hundreds of years ago. They're still there. So they decided then, let's call it Judgment Day. So they'll all sit there until Judgment Day, one day, and they'll all rise up together. Can you imagine the scene of all these bodies rising up? But they simply modified the teaching to suit their understanding, because they didn't want to leave the concept. So back in those days especially, adding a non-truth to something was perfectly reasonable. Yes.
Did Christ come across a perfect living master?
He unfortunately did not. And therefore he didn't attain the very highest level. But nevertheless, he was far higher than any of the others who were around at the time. And that's reflected in his teachings. Yeah. Yes.
There is record of this, the fact that you said he went to India for
yes.
water.
Yes. There's archaeology, there's evidences from the places he stopped, there's documents, there's a lot of evidence. Even the Vatican recognized this, the Church of Rome, they recognize this in their archives, they have evidence of all of this. Oh yeah, there's quite a lot of evidence, but it doesn't suit the mainstream Christianity today to publicize this. Yes.
You've surprised me by saying that, in answer to the question, thank you for posing the question, that Jesus was not initiated.
No, he wasn't.
You've previously said that Prophet Hazrat Muhammad was initiated.
No.
He had a master.
He had a master, but he wasn't initiated.
But he wasn't initiated.
Okay, when we're explaining about initiation, so did Jesus have a master, but when we talk about initiated, we're talking about from a Sant Satguru, someone who comes from Satgurus, beyond the level of the mind. Okay? Prophet Muhammad had a master, and his master was from the astral realm. That's why the entire moon god concept and everything is celebrating the deity that he followed, which is the moon. And the moon god was the one based upon the tribal system of Allah. It was the moon god. And so he was initiated by a master from the astral realm. Therefore, the teachings only go so far, and they talk about Jannah as being their total heaven. Jannah means garden, where they have all these fancy fruits and everything. This only exists in the astral realm. They do not speak of things higher than that. So Islam was for a tribal people, and it was for the level that they were. So it was suitable for them. And obviously putting these religions against one another is not the best way to deal with it, because this creates more division. You have to understand that the religions that were created at the time were for the local population, for the local people, to get them to the next level. It is unfair to take those religions and then compare them to other religions worldwide as if they're on an equal footing. No, they all serve their purpose. And the problem is when we use them to discriminate, that's the problem with religion. In spirituality, that doesn't happen. Yes?
I've heard conversations about religions in Africa and a beginning. We haven't touched on that, and you made me start thinking about that.
There are many small local religions in Africa. Most of them, I would say almost all of them, are based upon superstitions and still going back to the ancient archaic times of worshipping animism, so physical entities and spirits and so on. So therefore we don't talk about them because none of them take you to Satgurus. But they serve the people to give them some sort of order and some sort of system for their particular land, for their particular culture. Yeah. Okay, so next question. Oh no, we're going.
Last Sunday I knocked on somebody's door after finishing. Sorry. Last Sunday I didn't come here. I knocked on somebody's door canvassing and gave him some leaflets, and he said, I don't vote. I said, oh, that's fine. But
you were politically canvassing?
Yes.
Okay.
I said, but it's good to exercise your right to vote. You know? He said something which I didn't understand. He said, I'm a demon. And that then further threw me. He said,
probably just teasing you.
No. Well, I'll tell you why.
Nobody likes people knocking at the door at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Trying to push some politics down their throat. So I think that's one way of getting rid of them. If you say you're a demon, they're going to run like hell, aren't they? I should try that one next time.
Oh no, I've never been so belittled. So I said, yes, and he said, I'm a Satanist. I said, oh yes, yes. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Have a good day. Because I've read about Satanism.
Yes, it's okay.
And
it's just another belief system.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind lady mentioned animism.
Yes.
In Africa.
Yes.
We've still got similar beliefs here, haven't we?
Oh yes, there's so many. There's witchcraft here, and there's many other
paganism,
crystal power, paganism, the shamanism. So there's a lot of there's a lot of the archaic practices still here. They're dying now because as people get more educated and logical, their intelligence is elevating through the ages. They're now dismissing these things as not possible or nonsensical. But the religions are still standing for a while. But by the end of this century, there won't be any religion. There'll be only spirituality, called spiritual science. So all these religions that we have now, where there's divisions between each other and they're killing each other, that will finish. People will not tolerate that anymore.
This century. Oh, yeah. So it's very imminent.
By 2055, yes. You won't have the mainstream religions at all. They'll be relegated to some folklore back thing that you do privately in your home but not publicly mentioned. There won't be the mainstream religions that you have following now. They'll all be, even Sikhism, because then they'll follow the religion of the Guru Nanak, in the sense that they will, Sant Mat and Sikhism will merge, because they're essentially the same thing.
I'm reported with that.
And it'll be classed as a spiritual science. People will move away from divisions and they'll want unity and peace. Because after 2055, then we'll have 900 years of peace. So for that to happen, certain big changes have to occur. First, the upheaval up until then, the massive upheaval which we're witnessing now, starting in the 2020s. I've always said it's going to be the decade of disaster. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. People living through this particular decade. It's going to be very interesting. And but slowly these upheavals will cause change in government, change in policy, and people, the new generation coming up, are not going to accept what's happening today. They're going to say, we don't want to live this way of life.
Yeah.
They're not going to accept it.
The one line of thought that still exists within the Sikhs, called Namdaris,
yes,
who will not wear a kirpan as such because they carry it as a symbol.
Yeah.
Their teachings are very much like what you have been saying.
Yeah, I mean, even the Namdaris have a difficult historical past, which I don't want to go into, bless them.
It's happened recently.
It's not, they're not the best representative of Sikhism, I have to say. Eventually, as the new generations come, they will question all the things that they see, the validity of these things, because their understanding will be higher. Humans are evolving in Dwapar Yuga. There's a spiritual vibration will be increasing this century since 2012. So that the generations born will question much more logically and clear-minded. Emotion will be ruled out of the equation, and they'll be more clear-minded what is truth and what is not truth. And because truth seeking will become the prevalent activity, there's no room for belief systems which don't require any proof. Just say it's written in this scripture, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, we believe it today. Yeah. Well, what state of mind were these people when they wrote these things? Yeah. So, what was their level?
So the idea that even the Namdari approaches is
you have the Namdaris, you have the Nirankaris.
Yeah, well, Nirankaris I just cannot accept.
I'm just giving an example. They're born of Sikhism. They both came from that line.
Yeah, but
this is the problem with Christianity. You have the Protestants, the Methodists, the Catholics.
I mean,
the Baptists.
There's no reason forming a religion like the Nirankaris, which says anything goes, man, anything goes.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's their belief system.
Yeah. So that's not.
You have to respect them. You can't judge. Don't judge.
No, I mean,
it's their understanding.
But it's not for me.
It's their understanding.
But it's not for me.
If it's not for you, that's fine.
Yeah. So.
But don't judge.
Yeah. So I went there and I understood that this was not for me, and I told you about it. Yesterday morning I had my music class, 7 o'clock in the morning, learning the old way of how Gurbani was sung. So this is the rag system. And
very few people can do that.
Yeah, and it's not just the rag system, which comes from Hinduism, the Vedic Shastriya Sangeet. It's not just that. It's the Sangeet that the original Marasis like Mardana did. And I go to learn that. And I was there for 1 hour and I stayed there for 3.5 hours. He kept looking at his watch. His lessons were being cancelled, but I wouldn't leave the place.
Okay.
Right, because
gracious of him.
Very. But I got a lot from that. And,
it's okay. This is part of your journey.
Yeah, and so putting the music aside, which will continue, I was thinking that so much of what he said to me, there's nothing that I did not agree with, and
then enjoy. Exhausted to the end,
right,
until you want to progress. But it's your journey.
Yeah.
It's no harm.
But you have just said that it's not the whole thing.
No, it's not the complete. And as you journey through it, you'll find that for yourself.
You're not able to tell me.
This is your journey. Yes.
Going back to what you said, the change will occur in 2055.
Yes. Well, that would be the point where we would say a major tipping point.
So
it's not like it's suddenly going to be at 2055. There's going to be a lot of build up to that.
So if spiritual science is going to be accepted,
yes,
I'm assuming technology will prove that.
Yes, the quantum mechanics will be greatly advanced. They'll understand the connection between the spiritual world and the physical world. There'll no longer be that grey boundary where modern scientists today dismiss anything that's spiritual because they can't touch it, feel it, and so on. There'll be a greater understanding of other dimensional existences. I mean, they're dabbling with it right now, but they're nowhere near understanding fully about even the cosmos itself. I mean, they're already thrown into confusion when the James Webb Telescope looked back 300 million years to the origin of the Big Bang, just 300 million, and found fully mature galaxies there, which theoretically should not exist. Because if time was the way it was explained from the Big Bang to now, there should be just be matter whizzing around in a cosmic soup, or very immature, very early signs of nebula encounters. But no, they found fully mature galaxies, and that's really it throws the entirety of physics out the window. Imagine that shock for them.
They won't be able to find the beginning, will they?
Yes, because it's not the way they describe. But that's for science to discover. Let them have their fun.
But more importantly,
Ishwapuri mentioned that they will go back further and further.
Yes.
They will realise that there is a universe there as well. There's a creation there.
It's because when you look at a curve, if you curve something round, you keep going round, where's the beginning? If I draw a circle, and I say to you, find the beginning or end of that circle, wherever you choose, you always go round. You never find a beginning or end. It appears infinite. That's exactly how this universe is. It's not infinite, it appears infinite, because the method you're using to discover it is not going to let you see anything beyond the physical. Yeah.
So in quantum physics, one of the three strange things in quantum mechanics that define quantum mechanics, entanglement has been proven to exist.
Yes.
They all accept it.
Yes.
Not a single explanation for how a tiny little...
Well, there is. I've written about that in the first book, and about consciousness. That the only way it would possibly work, excluding time, be instantaneous connection, is if consciousness, they're both constant each other. And consciousness has no time.
Right, but you explain it as consciousness.
Yes.
Scientists still refuse to.
Yeah, because they haven't got spiritual science on board yet. They don't understand what consciousness is.
Yeah.
Once they understand the nature of the conscious energy, the power of consciousness, that life exists from non-life in the universe, which is another problem.
Yeah.
How does life come from non-life? You try making that in a laboratory. They've tried. They've not succeeded.
I was pleased to learn what you had written,
Yes.
because as I told you, I'm not a quantum physicist, but the reason why I went there
Yes.
and did a whole course, or a little course on it, was to find out what consciousness was. And it was there that I thought maybe the seeds of consciousness may lie.
It's okay, this is good. I mean, I started off with science. I went to the very highest level because I had an eidetic memory, so I could memorize entire books of knowledge. And I was very gifted intellectually, so I was able to read vast amounts of data. And I went through the science route initially. I read all the science books, all the papers. Encountered many great scientists, not going to mention any names. And I asked them certain questions, and I posed certain questions because they could not answer. But I answered it through my own understanding and awareness from the mind at that time. But it still wasn't enough because I didn't know the cause. So I could explain something that existed, but not the cause. And I was obsessed by why, or the cause. See, that led me to the spiritual line.
So my original question was of how people are born, made in a particular way.
Yes, I was made in a certain way. Yes,
Yeah,
my friends thought I was crazy bothering about these things.
So
they said,
that's
just go and party like us and enjoy ourselves, enjoy with girls and drink. I said, no, I want to know. I hang around with all these old scientists, geeks, these boring people.
Yeah.
Imagine as a youngster, right?
Yeah.
And everyone was shocked. They were just saying, why are you so interested in this at such a young age?
Yeah, but again, I found that the scientists were extremely good at doing it.
Yes.
That's why they were there.
Yes.
But they were not good at doing what you had done.
Well, whatever I have done is by the Lord's grace. I don't claim anything.
Sure, but I'm a former scientist, and I was my seeking was insulted by them more than once.
It's fine. I mean, I have a bit of fun with scientists because I can turn their query on their head because I know how science works.
Yeah.
Coming from a physics background, studying it at a high level.
Yeah.
So I know how to manipulate from mathematics to physics, how to play the game, stir the pot and then leave them to solve the problem, you know.
Not me.
And I'm naughty like Guru Nanak. You know, Guru Nanak was naughty with his Hindu Muslim problem.
Yeah.
I do the same thing with scientists.
Not me.
I stir the pot a little bit and leave them to it.
I just looked at my shoes and sobbed, and I was feeling, deeply insulted. But anyway, that's another story.
It's okay.
But I was really glad that at least I found somebody like yourself who thought this was...
Because I made that inquiry. Coming from that background, I needed to solve the big problems of science, which is about how does gravity fit in to the other forces, the other three forces. And then I realized that, through other means, let's say that gravity, as they say, doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. It's a consequence of electromagnetism, and it has it's electrogravity, actually. Mm-hmm. But this understanding because they've never found a graviton, they've never found anything that proves gravity exists other than the effect that they see.
So the
and
idea
they're giving it a name.
That's one of the four forces is wrong.
Yes, one of the four main forces.
Is wrong.
So yes, it's wrong. So even with Einstein, when he's talking about his special relativity theory and so on, gravity is a big problem. Even he struggled all his life with it, and he never could get to the bottom of it. He never felt that he solved the problem, and he died trying, because he was looking in the wrong place. He made an assumption about gravity that's not correct, and so everything he tried to do around it didn't work. And scientists have carried on with that idea. They insist that gravity has certain properties, but they don't understand that there's a gravitational lensing and other things does indicate that, a planet in this void can bend space. But they're saying this is something to call gravity, and they've given attributes to gravity which is not correct. Once they remove the attributes of this gravity and understand this force, what it actually is, then they'll understand that this force is consciousness. A unifying force. It's a conscious energy, and it's actually not as they say. It's the fact that all consciousness attracts to itself, because actually they can't even explain why the universe is ordered the way it is. Why should all this matter come together to form planets, stars, asteroids, and all kinds of other things? They can't fully explain how even a sun is made. They have a theory about how the sun becomes illuminated, but they don't actually know.
So would I be right in thinking the Earth is alive, and that a density of consciousness?
It's a density of consciousness. It has properties, and because of that lack of understanding, there's loads of gaps in science. Once they put the consciousness in there, it all will tie in together, and that's what we call spiritual science, the discovery of consciousness in science. Once they've nailed that troubling bit of information, then everything else will fall into place, and then the real origin of the universe will come about.
We need more holy masters with the degrees in physics.
I don't want to spoil the fun, so I just put a few spanners in the works to make them think, give an explanation, and not to answer all the questions for them, because there are other people who will specialize in that, and that's their role. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not going to be there answering all their questions, because they'll all have been distracted from the real message. The real message is beyond the physical. But nevertheless, to demonstrate,
I've not seen these people who've been putting it together. I've only seen doers who present this data.
In time,
but
the new breed of scientists now coming up are going to be questioning. Don't worry. Be patient. Maybe not in your lifetime, but it will happen. Okay? So we move on to the next question.
Still talking about Jesus.
Okay.
Last two questions on this. I think you've touched on this. Christians believe Jesus died on the cross for our sins. Is this true?
No, he didn't. But this was added much later in Christianity to make Jesus special, as I've explained. So it was just his time was up, and he had to leave that land.
Okay, the last question regarding Jesus. During meditation, I sometimes see in my imagination several Sant masters, saints and Jesus. Is it okay to focus on Jesus or whoever I feel close to at that time?
The answer varies. If the person's initiated, they should only focus on their master who initiated them, because he's the one allocated to take them home. No other master, no matter how great they are, can interfere with that process. So he should only focus on the master who initiated him. If he's a non-initiate and he's meditating and he's seeing other deities and gods and so on, then he can pick one that he feels most represents the qualities that he admires, or attributes that he admires in a master, and follow that one.
Thank you. I've got a question about meditation. In Holy Scriptures, it is written that we have got this human body after 8.4 million years, but nowadays we don't take this idea seriously. So how do we create this sense of urgency in us so that we can dedicate more time to meditation?
You see, it's not 8.4 million years, it's 8.4 million species, which sometimes we spend many lifetimes in. In total, it's between 10 to 50 million years we've been in the lower forms before becoming human. which is why Holy Masters stress the urgency of, while in the human form, seek beyond the human form. Otherwise you'll go back into Chirasi-like. You'll go back into 8,400,000 species. So they urge as a human being to use the faculties given us as human being, this rare opportunity to be born human, which is a very rare opportunity in life, including the astral realm, the causal realm. If you look at the physical realm and the realm below, being born human is a very rare event. So rare that if you really understood what being born human meant, you would not waste all your time in these nonsense pursuits that you do in the world. You really would use that faculty to get the hell out of here and to discover the highest truth. Because if you don't, you may go back into Chirasi-like and have spent another few million years wandering in the lower forms before being given human birth again. So this is why, because of this, because you've won this so hard, you've been through so much to become human, since you entered into creation and experienced all life forms, that they say, why you waste this opportunity? You've now reached the top of creation. In other words, there's nothing higher than human for realizing the truth. We're not talking about higher life forms or, powers and abilities, because clearly astral beings are more powerful than you, causal beings are more powerful than them. What we're talking about is you have the opportunity as a human being, because of your very nature of ignorance, to seek the truth. You can only seek something if you don't know. So in the astral realm, all the beings know their story. They're born with the entire plan laid out before them. They know exactly what's going to happen to them. All the timeline events are shown to them. It's not a mystery. And therefore they're just living it. They're enjoying each part of it. Now they're having the experience of it. So life there is completely different to our life here. In the causal realm, of course, they know the origin of the mind. They know now that their mind, whatever it thinks, becomes. They have that creative power. So they can, but they cannot seek the truth. They can only create. So they become creative power. Yeah, so they think they're a god. Only human beings can seek the truth because of something called ignorance. Because we are shielded from the truth, uniquely in creation, human beings have an ability to question, to use something called choice, to make choices based upon blind faith. Right? Faith and trust. When something is done on faith and trust without knowing, and it's a noble thing, the reward is a million times greater. This opportunity does not occur in the other species, and it does not occur in the astral realm or the causal realm, only in the human form, because they simply don't know. Now we don't know that because we live this life and take it for granted. It's only when we listen to the words of the saints so urgently pleading with us to use this precious human birth, lest the worst thing come unto thee, as Jesus said, if you waste this life in vain. He said, how shall it profit a man if he should gain the whole world but lose his soul? So this emphasizing must make you think, for those who are interested, why are they making such a big deal about this? It's okay, we'll just come back and have another go. It's because it's not that easy to win human birth. If you mess up this time, you may not have another opportunity for millions of births. So they say, please, for your own sake, do it. Trust us. We're telling you from experience. And this is a universal theme. That's why the religions generally have this sense of urgency. Like Guru Arjan Dev says, wake up, dear soul. Why are you sleeping among these swindlers of the mind and the body and people around you? He said, you're much more than this. Wake up, dear soul, his Bani. He was very direct. I'm not going to quote the whole thing. But he was urgently saying this as well, because of the slumber we're in. We're sleeping in ignorance. He says, wake up and know the truth. So, yes, there is a sense of urgency, and I hopefully I've conveyed the reason for that. And one would be wise to investigate this for themselves.
Thank you. I do have lots more questions, but what I'm going to suggest, if it's okay with you, if I can ask the last two questions relating to Simran, because if it's nicely with what you just said, and if myself and you meet up again and do a part 2 and send it out maybe a few days later after this satsang. be sent out? Is
That's
that okay?
fine if you think so. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay
Just so
with
we
that.
can get up to speed with all the questions that
Yes,
everyone's
yes,
put
yes.
forward, if that's all right.
Yes.
Okay, last 2 questions on Simran. It is said that until we awake our consciousness, Surat, and collect it behind the eyes, we cannot listen to the sound coming from God. But I am not able to do it. So what is the right way to do Simran?
You see, the holy mantra of Simran that this one is speaking of is given by a holy master, and is charged, is empowered with the grace of the Lord. When you recite this Simran deliberately and slowly, it carries a power within it that transforms you. It is transformative, but you have to do it with faith, trust, and deliberate, in recognition of the one who gave it to you. So this Simran is not just a reciting of names that you could just pick up in any book. No, this is very different. The Simran that's given to you by a perfect living master has great power. And if you recognize this, the importance of this gift that they've given you to do, and you do this out of obedience, faith, trust, and recognition of your great good fortune, that a master has gazed upon you and has given you this power, then suddenly that becomes all powerful. And it allows you to enter into states of existence called samadhi that you never knew existed before within you. So I would say definitely do the Simran slowly, deliberately, pronouncing each syllable very clearly, silently within you, with that earnestness, that feeling of gratitude and wonder of what you have been given. Don't treat it as mere words. If you treat it as mere words, it'll just be words. It'll serve you nothing.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't understand the concept of Simran. This is new to me, my first time here.
Yes, I understand.
Just say a little bit. I know it must be...
Okay, when the Lord decides that your time is ready to go home, beyond the level of mind and Maya, in order to overcome the way the mind operates, restrict the mind to narrow it down to more focused thinking of higher mind, you're given something called Simran. Now Simran is for the mind predominantly, and the idea of Simran is when you do your meditation, because the path of the saints is all about meditating and connecting with the truth within you, first-hand experience, not listening to somebody else, but first-hand experience, right? So you know for sure, so you become a knower rather than a believer. So again, moving away from belief to knowing. So there's a means, and this means is using this holy mantra or Simran. I mean, in Hinduism they're very familiar with mantras, they have so many. So, but this concept, this mantra is different because it's 5 names, 5 words, 5 powers, which are given to you by a holy master. And these 5 powers are exactly that, they are powerful. When you recite them in the right way, the right feeling, they open your inner eye. They allow you access within, and they allow you to venture beyond. And also they protect you. They protect you in this world. They have a protective power. They also protect you within, particularly from the negative deities that will come and attack you to try and stop you leaving their creation. It's very, very powerful. So this is what we refer to as Simran. Yeah, this holy mantra of 5 words, which is given only by a living saint, only by a perfect living master, not from any book, not by any other means. Yeah.
Okay, here's my last question. Ishwar Puriji said that guilt is a hindrance to spiritual practice, and also said not to have expectations on the path. Nevertheless, I want to be a serious practitioner and constantly feel guilt over my failures to do better in all the ways that Satsang is supposed to spend their time. As I understand it, the tools for improving control of the mind are spending time with the Master, meditation, and Simran. Of these 3, only doing more Simran seems possible right now. Can you please speak about coping with the reality of guilt on the path and the potential of Simran to deal with guilt, improve meditation, and stay motivated?
You see, this is a big problem for human beings because they don't understand the nature of the play and their part in the whole play. They enter into a judgment game both for others and for themselves. When we say don't judge, you should not judge yourself either, but you should discern. You should understand where you are heading and learn from mistakes. But this is not a judgment. This is an awareness. This is an observation. Being an observer of your own truth means that that we are learning from our mistakes and we're improving ourselves. So we should avoid feelings of guilt or shame, but instead learn from these things, these experiences, so to improve ourselves to the best of our ability, so that all may profit by it. We should think of the right and lend our assistance to all who may need it, with no regard for anything but the right, meaning do no harm. So if we have made a mistake in the past, let's say, and we're harboring feelings of guilt, that will not help us. It will not help to solve the situation. It will not help to solve the problem, nor provide confidence to improve ourselves. Guilt debilitates us. It removes our inner confidence. It doesn't allow us to build upon our mistakes, move on and forward, because it's a negative thing. It minimizes us. It takes away our confidence. Therefore, we should only focus and delight upon improving ourselves and our attitude, and thus forgive ourselves for our past karmic mistakes through recognition, repentance and remorse, which we spoke about earlier. Also, it's worth noting that we often have not actually done anything particularly wrong, but we are misinterpreted by our actions. And as a result of that, then we feel guilt as well, even for those things. We don't intentionally do anything wrong, but the pride and judgment of others labels us in some way. So these are all difficult things that we have to overcome. The most important thing is to recognize that they are not at fault. If they misinterpret your actions or your deeds, and you feel guilty as a result because you feel that you're a bad person for that misunderstanding, then no, this is not the way to look at it. You should forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. It's based upon their sanskars, the characteristics of their personality, how they see things. So, they do not have often love, compassion and kindness in their heart. So therefore they use that judgment and the harsh mentality to boost their own ego. So most people who criticize you is because they are boosting themselves. They want to be better than you. So by finding fault with you and putting you down, it boosts them. This is a thing of ego. Similarly, if you have made a mistake and you are truly remorseful and repent for that and learn from this, then where is the need for shame and guilt? This is a wonder exercise of self-improvement. If you focus on positive and self-improvement, then this will occupy your mind rather than just simply thinking, oh, I am a guilty person, I'm shameless, I'm this. Because in reality, the Lord is the doer. Nobody else does anything. So if you forgive yourself, you should also forgive others. It's not a question of discrimination here. But you should learn from the mistakes. If you've made that mistake, learn to improve, even if it's not your intention. Even if you unintentionally have caused a problem for somebody, accept it, that's the way they look at it. And learn that maybe that's the way society looks at things. And therefore you've been misinterpreted. And try better next time. Not to upset anyone, as best as you can. But certainly never entertain guilt and shame, because these things are demoralizing to you. They benefit no one. They do not help the situation that's happened, nor do they benefit you in your spiritual progress. They bring everything down. That's why the masters say, do not enter into this game of guilt and shame, because there are no winners, there are only losers. It helps no one. And in fact, it can even lead to harm, self-harming, and maybe even harming others. If you seek revenge, that the whole world has misinterpreted you, so you take a gun, as they do in America quite famously, go into school and shoot a few people before shooting yourself. These tragedies occur because these people have deep-seated shame, guilt, or other feelings like this. Sometimes it's mentally ill, but mostly it drives them to that point when they feel that they've been judged by society or something and they cannot cope, so then they take revenge on society. Because a normal depressed person will just hang themselves and they won't kill everybody else. But somebody who goes out to that point, they feel society has harmed them. This is a product of our society of judgment and harm. So depression and despair often occurs because our desires remain unfulfilled. So the more desires we have, the more likely we are to be disappointed. And once disappointment comes, then a sense of frustration and depression follows. If we minimize our desire to the level of absolute need and not want, then we won't be so prone to disappointment. So therefore, if we are disappointed with ourselves, we then often feel guilty and shameful that we have let ourselves down. But we are undergoing our own journey. We are struggling like everybody else. Everybody's struggling. Neither you should put anybody else down, nor should you put yourself down. But instead learn, improve, and move forward in a positive way. And don't base your happiness solely upon other people. If we expect to gain happiness solely from another person, in time we're bound to be disappointed. If bad relationships and connections end, we should see it as an opportunity to move on, not to seek revenge. It is no use dwelling on what might have been, or on who was right and who was wrong. For this only brings misery, anger, and sadness to our heart, but to no avail. It is also a mistake to feel that we can change others to match our preferences or expectations. If we seek to change a person fundamentally through force of our will, we will just feel frustrated when we fail. Rather than spend time upon improving oneself than in changing others, and let our loving and noble example be the catalyst that makes those around us do the same when they are ready. Simply by confidence in following our example, it builds confidence in them when they see us overcoming difficulties and not responding negatively. So we can always use these negative feelings of the mind in a positive way. That's what I would suggest, rather than feeling guilt and shame. So guilt and shame, because of its nature of being depressing and stopping us from moving forward, has no part in spirituality. Firstly, it's part of the judgment game. Secondly, it holds us back from making spiritual progress, because we say, what's the point of moving forward? We should never look like that. We're all struggling here. Some people hide it better than others. Some people smilingly, they go through life and you think, oh, they must be having a good life. No, they're having their own demons. Everybody's struggling with something. Maybe they have a short temper, maybe they speak badly, of others, they gossip, they enjoy gossiping, many things that people do that you don't know of. So you're not the only one in this situation. So just simply brush off the dust of the past and move on. The past has been done. You cannot change the past, but you can ruin the future by bringing the past into the present that makes your actions become negative today. What has been done is done. Yeah. If you're remorseful and repent sincerely, the Lord will forgive you. Even if the other parties don't. You don't have an opportunity to make an amends. You may feel guilty. Similarly, if you don't do your practice well, think about, what is it you're here for? Does it matter to you? It might be it's not so important to you. You might have put other things more important. When the time comes and those things let you down, then you return to spiritual practice by hook or by crook. Better not to wait for that. Better to introduce spiritual practice slowly into your life until it becomes the norm. The mind does not like spiritual practice because spiritual practice does not give it what it wants. So there's a rebellion against it. People want to do things that pleases the mind because they're slaves of the mind. In this case, seek the company of the noble and enlightened always, because by doing so, their energy will rub off onto you, and you'll want to do your spiritual practice. You'll want to live the right way. You want to benefit from this life. Then you live the enchanted life, the magical life, which miracles happen around you all the time, and many things happen. Even if you have heavy karma, here or there, things happen that save you. So always be positive. Negativity has no place in a modern human society, because it only brings you down to the level of suspicion, superstitions, and bad animal-like behavior. The natural nature of a human being is to move forward, to be positive, create, build, help. We have compassion, kindness. These are our trademarks, and we should build upon them as a human race. We should not judge anyone. Everyone is like us. Whether they're rich or poor, make no mistake, they all have their troubles. Yeah? Don't put yourself down in front of others, and don't put yourself higher than others. Yeah? Whenever you have an opportunity, help. Be kind. But most importantly, seek the truth for yourself. And then all this will become known to you. It won't be just a theory. Yeah? Work on yourself, improve yourself, become a noble human being. And I want only the truth in anything, the highest truth, no matter how uncomfortable that truth may be, no matter what the cost, according to the Guru Granth Sahib. That means even at the cost of your life, which others have laid down. I'm not saying lay life down for that, you might not be ready. But you'll get to the point where you will want to, it won't matter to you, because the truth is everything. And that's why we were born human, to discover this truth for ourselves. Yeah, yes, go ahead.
So, Baba, you talk about the truth, and again, even today you mentioned love. It seems we can't talk about either religion or spirituality without mentioning love. And
love of the truth. Love of what?
Love of the truth.
Love of impermanence, love of the unreal, or love of the reality, love of truth. This is a misused term in even in spirituality. They talk about love of a being. Like, for example, I love the master. What do you love? The master is physical like you. He will deteriorate just like you. He has disease, problems just like you. When you say you love the master, you love what he represents. He represents the truth. You love the truth in the master. It's very important. Masters don't want to be worshipped. They do not come here to be worshipped. It is the truth that they carry, that they pass on to you. Otherwise, they're just like you. They can't do anything else. Yeah, they're physical like you.
So in my life, I've seen certain things that have produced a lot of love in me, and you know exactly what I mean. The more we've mentioned, so
yes.
So I've not loved anything more than my son. How do I love this reality?
Well, Guru Nanak actually says.
I'm not seeing the reality.
Guru Nanak says that this love is false. Worldly loves are false.
So I can see that's false.
He mentions a lot. You coming from a Sikh background
It's
about this false. Yes.
It's one of the five. Never mind. The opposites of good.
Yes, the sins, the non-virtues.
This is considered to be more.
Yes.
I understand that idea. But in terms of
the only way you can detach from these worldly loves and phenomena is to attach yourself to something greater. Attachment creates detachment. Only by attaching to something better will you naturally give up. You can't do it by force. You'll rebel.
How can I love something that I cannot see, and I want a master to show me so that I can see, so I can love?
No. Be stages by stage. Before you get to the point of being a lover, first look within yourself and become a truth seeker. You just be happy that you're seeking the truth. All these other things, don't worry about. They will come. In the beginning, become a genuine truth seeker of the highest truth. So rather than going sideways, which is what you're doing, wandering around all these different systems, testing them all out. It's okay. It's your method. Yeah, it's tiresome for some, but it's your method. Just go up and see for yourself. The moment you become a truth seeker, a truth seeker, then all these wanderings about here and there will stop, because you'll realize that when the time comes, the truth will come to you. But even before that, your life becomes a blessing. Things start going well for you and other things. You'll start noticing a change in your life. Unlike when you are wandering around in other systems and just investigating things like a scientist. When you seek the very highest truth within you, then something awakens within you, and that carries grace. And when that grace comes, then your time for initiation will come. But there's certain karmic obligation that must be cleared first. Certain karmic things must be gone through, to straighten out the sanskars, and then that time comes. So be patient. You've waited millions of births for this opportunity. The mere fact that you are inquiring is enough. And let's say the worst case scenario, you don't get initiated in this lifetime. What's of it? You'll be guaranteed human birth, because as a sincere seeker, you'll be born in better circumstances to a more spiritual family and have an opportunity to connect with the master of the day. It is never time wasted. Every moment you spend in seeking the truth is in your credit. It is credit to you, no matter how you're doing it. Don't think that you want results now. It doesn't work that way. Everyone who has attained that result has been through the merry-go-round. And when you see them now attaining that result, it's because of their past efforts stand before them, which you do not see. Now, when you're on this journey now beginning, you think, comparing yourself to others, well, they've got it and I haven't got it. Wait, they have been through what you've been through already. That's why. It's not that this is an unfair system. It's that they have gone through everything. But you do not know that. So you just think of yourself. You just stick with the truth. And personally, you'll witness your own little miracles happening, which you cannot even explain to others, that don't make sense to anybody. Then you'll understand, wow, this journey of meeting a perfect living master and going home started lifetimes before I was initiated. In fact, 10 lifetimes before. It doesn't start straight away. People think that when they're initiated in this lifetime, this is it. It is the end of the road. When they're initiated, the end has come. Not the beginning, the end. To get to that point, you spend at least 10 births inquiring about this, searching, seeking, working towards it. And you will always be in better and better circumstances each time. So what is there to fear? The worst case scenario is you come again. In better circumstances. And you have another go. The best case scenario is, okay, you meet the perfect living master, they agree to initiate you in this lifetime, and you go home. It's either way is a win. We humans rush because we're born in this culture of Americanism, fast everything, instant food, instant this, instant that, instant coffee. We want instant everything. No, it doesn't work like that. How many satsangis are initiated on the path? You may be much further than them, even so you're not initiated yet. You don't know. They might be just scraped a barrel. In fact, Babaji has lowered the bar considerably. Believe me, most of his disciples are not on list A. They'll have to come again. And they'll have to find the master of the day. So he's just cleaning them up a little. So things are not as they appear, but certainly earnestly become a truth seeker and let the Lord decide the fate. But one thing I can assure you, that if you become an absolute truth seeker, no power on this earth can stop you. Don't worry about the details. You just seek the truth. And when the time comes, boom, then you can rejoice.
Better than learning French.
Better than learning French, I would say. I mean, you can enjoy yourself in this life. It doesn't mean that, okay, just seek the truth and be miserable. No. Enjoy this life for what it is. Don't get involved in the play. Enjoy the play like you're on holiday. Just see that you're on holiday here. And that actually nothing has any real meaning. Except, what are you doing while you're on holiday? Yes, you're having fun as a human being, enjoying the human form. What else? If you waste this opportunity and not seek the truth, then you have lived your life in vain. But this is not a miserable path. This is not the thing you can't enjoy. Let's say you enjoy playing football, or badminton, or you're painting. What wrong is that? You can even learn French, providing it doesn't take away from the time you spend truth seeking. That should be your objective. You must have an objective in life. That must be the focus of your attention. Then when you have a bit of free time, enjoy yourself. watch a few movies and whatever, go and meet a friend. What does it matter? But in the back of your mind, you're always seeking. Everything you see around you, in some way, is bringing you closer to that path. You may be seeing things that you dislike in humanity, thinking, thank goodness, I'm not in that line. Then you become grateful. You're remembering the Lord, the Guruji within you, all the time. Either you're being grateful, thankful, or you're learning. It's a win-win all the way. And all of this goes to your credit. Yeah? So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah? So I think if nobody's got any more questions, we're going to break for lunch. I think it's been a long session. I don't know how long it is. I never know the concept of time. But yes, so thank you for attending, and we hope to see you next month.
So dehi paje har ki sev pajo gobind pul mat ja मानस जानम का एही ला